The world today moves at a relentless pace. Every morning, millions wake up already behind, racing against deadlines, obligations, and the heavy noise of modern life. The phone lights up before the sun rises. Messages, bills, and headlines pour in like waves crashing against the shore. The pressure to keep up, to earn more, to be more, never pauses. For many, this constant push creates a hidden exhaustion. Stress, anxiety, and loneliness are no longer occasional visitors. They are daily companions. Even in moments of success, something feels incomplete, as if a quiet hunger lingers just beneath the surface. People ask themselves, why am I still not at peace, even when I have so much? In this storm of constant doing, the heart often feels lost. Relationships break under the weight of unspoken tension. Money promises freedom, but often delivers chains. Ambition drives achievement, but rarely satisfaction. Silence, once a source of comfort, now feels unbearable, replaced by the endless hum of distraction. Many try to escape through entertainment, consumption, or even addiction, yet the emptiness returns stronger than before. This cycle repeats, leaving people tired, restless, and searching. But hidden in the very center of this struggle lies the seed of awakening. The same pain that weighs us down can point us toward freedom. The same noise that drowns our thoughts can remind us of the silence we need. For thousands of years, Buddhist teachings have offered a way to face life's suffering, not by running from it, but by seeing it clearly. These teachings are not about blind belief or rigid rules. They are about direct experience, about learning to meet each moment with awareness, compassion, and courage. Imagine carrying a heavy stone everywhere you go. Over time, your back aches, your shoulders tighten, and your breath becomes shallow. Now imagine someone gently saying, "You don't need to carry that stone." That is what the wisdom of the Dharma offers. It shows us how to set down what is unnecessary. It teaches us that peace does not come from controlling life, but from learning to live in harmony with it. This journey we are about to take together is not a lecture, not a theory, but a living exploration of pain and liberation. In each chapter, we will face a struggle that modern people know well: stress, money, relationships, fear, anxiety, loneliness. We will walk through these struggles slowly, with honesty, and then discover how Buddhist wisdom opens a door. Not a door to escape, but a door to freedom right in the middle of ordinary life. As you listen, you may find pieces of your own story hidden in these words. You may recognize the heavy breath of stress, the silent tears of loss, the endless search for meaning. But you will also find something else, a path that has guided countless souls for centuries, a path that can guide you too. This path is not about becoming someone else. It is about remembering who you truly are beneath the noise, beneath the struggle, beneath the masks we all wear. So let us begin this journey together. Let us open the first door, step into the heart of suffering, and discover how even in darkness, there is light. Each part of this journey will not only name the pain, but also reveal the way through. The destination is not somewhere far away. The destination is already here, waiting quietly in your own heart. Stress is the silent weight that presses on the chest of modern life. It creeps into every corner of the day, from the alarm clock that rings too early to the emails that pile up too fast. Stress is always there. For many people, stress feels like the background music of existence, a constant hum that never stops. It shows up in the tight jaw, the restless night, the racing thoughts that refuse to quiet down. It disguises itself as productivity, ambition, or responsibility, but deep inside, it is an ache, a burden that grows heavier each year. In America, stress has become almost a badge of honor. People boast about how busy they are, how little they sleep, how many tasks they juggle at once. To be overwhelmed is to be important. or so the culture suggests. Yet behind the polished smiles and crowded calendars, the truth is often darker. Stress is eroding health, breaking relationships, and dimming the spirit. High blood pressure, constant fatigue, heart disease, and depression are no longer rare. They are common, almost expected. Families suffer because parents are too exhausted to be present. Children absorb the tension of adults who are always rushing. Friends lose touch because there is never enough time. Why does stress hold such power? Because the modern world whispers a dangerous message. You are not enough. Not successful enough. Not wealthy enough. Not attractive enough. Not fast enough. Everywhere, advertisements and comparisons fuel this feeling of inadequacy. Social media shows only the highlight reels of others' lives. Workplaces reward constant hustle. Schools push endless achievement. The result is a deep, unshakable anxiety that we are always falling short. Stress thrives in this soil of self-doubt and endless striving. Imagine carrying a backpack that grows heavier each time you think, I must do more. At first, it is bearable. You can still walk, still smile. But day after day, the weight increases. Soon you are bent over, your breath short, your steps slow. You forget what it feels like to move freely. This is the experience of stress. It steals not only joy, but also clarity. When the mind is clouded with constant tension, it cannot see clearly. Small problems look like mountains. Simple tasks feel impossible. Stress magnifies everything, making life appear more threatening than it truly is. Yet, Buddhism offers a different way to see. The Buddha himself began by observing suffering, its presence, its cause, and its path to cessation. Stress is simply one face of suffering. It is the natural result of clinging to control, of resisting reality, of believing that peace will only come when everything is perfect. But life is never perfect. The emails never end, the bills never stop, the world never slows down just for us. Waiting for life to align before we allow ourselves, peace is like waiting for the ocean to stop making waves. It will not happen. Only true peace comes from learning to float, to move with the waves instead of fighting them. Mindfulness is the first key. To be mindful is to pause, to breathe, to truly notice what is happening right now. When stress rises, the habit is to react quickly, to complain, to tighten, to escape. But mindfulness invites us to stop, to take a breath, to observe the pounding heart, the racing mind, the shallow breath without judgment. In this simple act of noticing, something begins to shift. Stress is no longer a monster chasing us. It becomes an experience unfolding in the body and mind, one that can be seen clearly. For example, imagine being stuck in traffic. The car ahead of you is not moving. The clock ticks. Your appointment slips further away. Frustration boils. Normally, stress explodes. Angry thoughts, honking, tight muscles. But with mindfulness, you pause. You notice your clenched hands gripping the wheel. You feel your breath, shallow and fast. You realize this is stress. This is what stress feels like in my body. Instead of feeding the fire, you step back. The traffic is still there, but your suffering softens. You begin to see that the real prison was not the traffic jam, but your own reaction to it. Compassion is the second key. Often, stress grows because we demand too much of ourselves. We criticize every mistake, push harder when we are tired, refuse to rest because rest feels like weakness. But Buddhism teaches compassion not only for others, but for ourselves. Imagine speaking to yourself as gently as you would to a dear friend. When stress arises, instead of saying, I should be stronger, I should handle this better, try saying, this is hard, and I am doing my best. Such simple kindness loosens the grip of stress. It turns the harsh inner critic into a supportive companion. Non-attachment is the third key. Stress often grows because we cling too tightly to outcomes. We believe we must control every detail, guarantee every success, prevent every failure. But life does not bend to our will. Plans change, people disappoint, accidents happen. The tighter we hold, the more stress burns. Letting go is not giving up. It is the recognition that we cannot force the river to flow our way. We can only learn to navigate with its current. In letting go, stress loses its sharpest teeth. Consider the image of a rope. When pulled too tightly, it frays and snaps. When held with some looseness, it remains strong. The same is true with life. To hold lightly is not to stop caring, but to stop suffocating under the weight of expectation. This is the teaching of non-attachment. It allows us to work, to strive, to love, but without the constant fear of loss or failure. In this space, stress softens into something more manageable. The Buddha once compared the mind to a lute string. Too tight, and it breaks. Too loose, and it makes no sound. Stress is the sign of a string pulled too tight. Mindfulness, compassion, and non-attachment are the tuning tools. They allow us to adjust, to find the balance where life plays a melody instead of a scream. The solution is not to eliminate every source of stress. That would be impossible. The solution is to change our relationship with stress, to meet it not as an enemy, but as a teacher. Stress shows us where we are clinging, where we are forgetting to breathe, where we are demanding control that cannot exist. Each stressful moment can become a bell of awakening, ringing to remind us to return to presence. As we continue this journey, remember that stress is only the beginning. It is the first doorway we step through, but not the last. Beyond stress lie other pains that cut just as deep: money, relationships, fear. But as we have seen, even stress, which feels so heavy, can be transformed. The path is not about escaping life, but about living it differently. Step by step, pain by pain, we will discover the freedom that has always been waiting within. Stress does not vanish in a single breath. It returns again and again, like waves on the shore. One moment of peace can be followed by another rush of tension. This is why understanding stress is not enough. We must learn to live with it wisely, to transform our daily habits into practices that bring balance. Picture a worker at the end of a long day. The body aches, the head throbs, the phone still buzzes with unanswered emails. The mind whispers, "You cannot stop now. You must keep going." This voice of pressure is the very core of stress. It convinces us that rest is dangerous, that pausing is failure. Yet in truth, the pause is the medicine. To breathe deeply, to stretch, to allow silence is not laziness. It is the path to clarity. The Buddha reminded us that the middle way is the path of wisdom, neither extreme indulgence nor extreme denial, neither endless pushing nor complete withdrawal. Balance is where true strength is found. One powerful way to meet stress is through mindful breathing. The breath is always with us, yet in moments of stress, we forget it. We breathe fast and shallow, feeding our panic. But if we return to the breath slow, steady, aware, we create space inside. Imagine stress as smoke filling a room. The breath is like opening a window. Slowly, the smoke clears. Nothing outside has changed. The deadlines still exist. The bills still wait. But inside, we have room to breathe. This space changes everything. Problems appear smaller, solutions become clearer, and the heart softens. Walking meditation is another tool. In the modern world, walking is often rushed, just a way to get from one place to another. But when we slow down, when we feel each step, walking becomes medicine. Each foot touches the earth, as if kissing it. Each step says, I am here. I am alive. I am free in this moment. Stress thrives on speed, on urgency. Walking meditation slows the storm, anchors us in the present, and reminds us that life is happening now, not only in the future we are racing toward. Still, many people resist these practices. They say, I don't have time. My life is too busy. But this belief is part of the illusion of stress. The truth is, mindfulness does not require extra time. It can be woven into the smallest moments. Washing dishes becomes a meditation. When we feel the warmth of the water, notice the shine of the plate, hear the gentle sound of cleaning. Drinking tea becomes a meditation when we pause to notice the aroma, the taste, the heat in our hands. Even answering an email can be done with one conscious breath before typing. These simple acts are not small. They are the very heart of transforming stress into presence. Imagine a mother caring for her child. The child cries loudly, demanding attention. The mother could shout in frustration, overwhelmed by the noise. Or she could pause, breathe, and pick up the child with gentleness. The crying may not stop immediately, but the energy changes. Stress is like that child loud, demanding. We cannot always silence it instantly, but if we respond with awareness and kindness, the storm within begins to settle. There is also great wisdom in remembering impermanence. Stress feels eternal when we are inside it, but no storm lasts forever. Every wave rises and falls. Every night gives way to dawn. The Buddha taught that everything changes joy, sorrow, success, failure, even the sharpest pain. When we remember this, we no longer believe that today's stress will last forever. We hold it lightly, like holding ice in the palm of our hand. At first it is cold, even painful, but soon it melts. Stress, too, melts when we stop gripping it so tightly. A businessman once complained to a monk, "My work is endless. My worries never stop. What can I do?" The monk handed him a glass of water and a spoonful of salt. Place the salt in the glass and drink. The man tasted bitterness. Then the monk led him to a lake. He poured the same spoonful of salt into the water and said, "Now drink." The man tasted only freshness. The salt had not changed. What changed was the size of the container. Stress is the salt. When our mind is small, stress overwhelms us. When our mind expands through mindfulness and compassion, the same stress dissolves into a larger space, losing its power. Another truth is that much of our stress is borrowed from the future. We worry about things that have not yet happened. We live in tomorrow's problems instead of today's reality. This anticipation multiplies suffering. The Buddha said, "Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment." The present moment is almost always more bearable than the imagined future. Right now, we are breathing. Right now, we are alive. Right now, we have what we need. Stress shrinks when we return to this truth. Of course, stress is not only internal. It is shaped by the culture we live in. Consumerism tells us we must have more to be happy. Work culture tells us we must always do more to be worthy. These external voices become internal voices, whispering constantly, "Not enough, not enough." But the Dharma offers a counter voice. It says, "You are enough as you are." It says that peace does not depend on more possessions, more titles, more approval. Peace depends on knowing our own heart and living in harmony with it. This is why simplicity is such a powerful antidote to stress. When we simplify our lives, fewer possessions, fewer unnecessary obligations, fewer distractions, we create space for joy. A simple meal shared with loved ones can bring more happiness than a lavish banquet eaten in isolation. A quiet walk under the sky can bring more peace than hours scrolling through endless screens. Simplicity is not deprivation. It is liberation. It frees us from the chains of endless striving, allowing us to see the beauty already present in life. Letting go of comparison is another form of liberation. Much stress comes from measuring ourselves against others, comparing income, appearance, achievements. Yet each life is unique, each journey its own. To compare is to miss the truth of who we are. Imagine flowers in a garden. The rose does not envy the lily. The sunflowers do not compete with the daisies. Each blooms in its own way, in its own time. Stress dissolves when we stop trying to be someone else and instead honor the path unfolding within us. In the end, stress is not a curse, but an invitation. It invites us to wake up, to notice where we are trapped, to discover a freer way of living. Every stressful moment can become a teacher if we are willing to listen. The pounding heart reminds us to breathe. The racing thoughts remind us to pause. The tension in our body reminds us to release. Slowly, stress transforms from an enemy into a guide dot as we close this exploration of stress. Remember, the world will not slow down for us, but we can learn to slow down within it. We can learn to breathe in the storm, to walk gently in the rush, to carry peace inside no matter the noise outside. Stress may knock on the door each day, but we do not have to invite it in to stay. Now, as we step forward, we turn toward another challenge of modern life, one that often hides beneath stress, one that fuels sleepless nights and endless striving. The question of money. Money, like stress, is not evil in itself, but the way we cling to it, chase it, and fear its loss creates suffering. In the next chapter, we will open this door and see how Buddhist wisdom can free us from the chains of financial anxiety, showing us that true wealth lies not in numbers, but in the heart. Money is one of the most powerful forces in modern life. It shapes choices, creates opportunities, and provides security. Yet at the same time, money is one of the greatest sources of stress, fear, and conflict. People work long hours chasing it. Families argue about it. Individuals lose sleep worrying about it. Even those who have more than enough often live with the quiet fear of losing it. In this way, money becomes not only a tool, but also a trap. In America, money is deeply tied to identity. A person's worth is often measured by income, possessions, or lifestyle. The car you drive, the house you own, the vacations you take, these become signals of success. But beneath this surface image, many carry heavy financial burdens. Student loans, credit card debt, rising costs of living. The pressure to maintain appearances while struggling to pay bills creates a hidden shame. People feel they cannot speak openly about money troubles, so they carry their anxiety alone. This silent suffering is everywhere. A father lies awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering how to pay for his children's education. A young woman dreads checking her bank account, afraid of seeing overdraft fees. A couple fights bitterly over spending, their love strained by numbers on a page. Even wealthy individuals confess to feeling constant worry that what they have is not enough. Money anxiety does not discriminate. It touches the poor, the middle class, and the rich alike. Why does money hold such power over the human heart? At its root, money represents survival. Without it, people fear losing shelter, food, healthcare, and dignity. But over time, money becomes more than survival. It becomes a symbol of safety, freedom, and even love. We believe that if we have enough, life will finally be secure. Yet this promise is fragile. The economy shifts. Jobs disappear. Unexpected bills arise. The more tightly we cling to money for security, the more anxious we feel, because deep down we know it can slip away at any moment. Buddhism teaches that suffering arises from attachment and craving. Money, when seen clearly, is simply paper, metal, or numbers on a screen. But when we project onto it our hopes and fears, money becomes something far larger, the answer to all problems, the guarantee of happiness. This illusion fuels endless striving. We chase promotions, invest in risky ventures, or sacrifice health and relationships for higher salaries. Yet even when goals are achieved, the satisfaction fades quickly. The hunger for more returns. The cycle continues. Imagine a thirsty person drinking salt water. Each sip promises relief, but instead it increases thirst. In the same way, the chase for money often deepens anxiety. The more we have, the more we fear losing. The more we gain, the more we compare ourselves to others who seem to have more still. The Buddha described this cycle as the endless wheel of desire. True freedom comes not from quenching desire with more, but from stepping off the wheel altogether. This does not mean rejecting money or living in poverty. The middle way reminds us that balance is essential. Money is a tool, useful and necessary. But when money becomes an idol, when it defines our worth or dictates our peace of mind, we become its prisoner. The key is shifting our relationship with money, seeing it not as a master, but as a servant. One practice is gratitude. Instead of focusing only on what is lacking, we pause to notice what is already here. The roof above us, the food on the table, the clothes that keep us warm. These are forms of wealth that many forget to count. Gratitude softens the hunger for more. It reminds us that abundance is not measured only in dollars, but also in simple blessings. A rich man who cannot enjoy his meal is poorer than a humble farmer who savors each bite with joy. Another practice is generosity. At first, generosity may seem frightening in times of financial stress. How can we give when we fear not having enough? Yet generosity is one of the most powerful antidotes to money anxiety. When we give, even in small ways, we loosen the grip of fear. We remember that money flows, that it is not something to hoard, but something to circulate. $1 given to someone in need creates joy in two hearts, the receiver and the giver. The Buddha taught that the act of giving plants seeds of freedom because it weakens the chains of greed and strengthens compassion. Consider the story of a monk who begged for alms each morning. One day, a poor farmer placed a single grain of rice into his bowl. Others laughed, saying it was too little. But the monk bowed deeply and said, "This grain is greater than gold, for it was given with a pure heart." The farmer's gift, though small, carried immeasurable value because it was offered sincerely. This story reminds us that wealth is not the size of the gift, but the spirit in which it is given. Mindfulness also transforms our relationship with money. Often, financial anxiety comes not from actual lack, but from unexamined habits. People spend unconsciously, chasing temporary comfort in expensive coffee, a new gadget, a night of online shopping. These purchases bring a brief thrill, but often deepen stress later. Mindful spending invites us to pause before using money. To ask, do I really need this? Does this purchase align with my values? Will this bring lasting peace or only fleeting distraction? In this way, money becomes a mirror, reflecting our deepest priorities. There is also wisdom in contentment. The Buddha taught that contentment is the greatest wealth. To be content does not mean to stop striving or to accept injustice. It means recognizing that true happiness is not dependent on endless acquisition. A person who learns to be satisfied with enough discovers a freedom that no amount of money can buy. Like sitting in the shade on a hot day, contentment brings relief from the burning sun of desire. Let us imagine again the worker lying awake at night, worried about bills. He cannot make money appear magically, but he can choose how to meet his fear. He can notice his breath, calm his mind, and remind himself of impermanence, that this moment will pass. He can focus on gratitude for what is present instead of drowning in fear of what is absent. He can practice generosity, perhaps not with money, but with kindness, time, or a smile. Slowly, his relationship with money changes. Anxiety softens into clarity. Fear becomes an opportunity to deepen wisdom. Financial stress will not disappear overnight. The cost of living will still rise. Jobs will still shift. Unexpected expenses will still come. But the way we meet these challenges can transform everything. By practicing gratitude, generosity, mindfulness, and contentment, money becomes less of a tyrant and more of a tool. The heart becomes lighter, freer, no longer enslaved by numbers on a screen dot. As we walk further on this journey, we will see that money is only one part of the puzzle. The search for security and happiness does not stop with financial stability. Even those who achieve wealth still suffer, still struggle, still feel incomplete. Much of this suffering arises in the tender space of human connection. Relationships, with their joys and heartbreaks, are another arena where pain is both sharp and transformative. Before we turn there, we must go deeper still into the nature of financial anxiety. In the next section, we will explore how attachment to money shapes identity, how fear of scarcity drives endless striving, and how Buddhist wisdom offers not only a philosophy, but a daily practice to find freedom even in the face of financial uncertainty. Money anxiety is not only about numbers. It is about identity, fear, and the stories we tell ourselves. When people say, "I don't have enough," the sentence often hides a deeper meaning. I am not enough. This link between self-worth and net worth is one of the most painful illusions of modern life. It convinces us that our value as human beings depends on financial status. A person who earns little may feel invisible. A person who earns much may fear losing respect if their fortune declines. Both are trapped because their sense of worth is chained to something unstable. The Buddha taught that clinging to impermanent things leads to suffering. Money is among the most impermanent of all. It rises and falls with the market. It disappears in disasters, medical bills, or accidents. It shifts with politics, inflation, and chance. To tie our identity to something so unstable is to live in constant fear. This fear is the root of financial anxiety. Even when the bank account is full, peace is fragile because the heart remains afraid of loss. Scarcity thinking is another chain. It whispers, "There will never be enough." This mindset does not depend on actual poverty. A person with millions can still feel scarcity, hoarding wealth out of fear. Scarcity makes life feel like a race, where others' success becomes our loss. We compete, compare, and grasp, believing that happiness is scarce too. But Buddhism teaches interdependence. Just as one candle can light many others without losing its flame, joy and abundance grow when shared. Scarcity is an illusion created by fear, while generosity reveals the truth of plenty. There is also the cultural myth that money solves every problem. Advertisements promise happiness in a car, a dress, a vacation. Social media glamorizes luxury, making ordinary life seem inadequate. People internalize these messages, believing peace is only one purchase away. But like chasing a rainbow, the closer they run, the further it seems. The moment of purchase brings excitement, then fades, leaving a hunger stronger than before. This cycle is suffering disguised as pleasure. It keeps people running endlessly, never satisfied, always anxious. Buddhist wisdom cuts through this cycle with the teaching of impermanence and non-attachment. If we see money for what it truly is, useful but impermanent, we free ourselves from its grip. Money can provide comfort, but it cannot guarantee happiness. Happiness is not bought but cultivated, moment by moment, in awareness and compassion. A simple meal eaten with gratitude can bring more joy than an expensive feast consumed with worry. A small home filled with kindness can feel richer than a mansion filled with loneliness. One practice that helps transform financial anxiety is mindful reflection. Sit quietly and ask, what does money mean to me? What do I fear without it? What do I hope to gain with it? Write down the answers. Many people discover that beneath the surface of I want money lies I want safety, respect, freedom, love. When we recognize the true need, we see that money is not the only path. Safety can be found in community. Respect can grow from integrity. Freedom can come from simplicity. Love arises from compassion. By identifying the deeper desires, we loosen the illusion that money alone can fulfill them. Another powerful practice is dana, the Buddhist tradition of giving. Even small acts of giving weaken fear. When we give, we prove to ourselves that we have enough, that we can share, that we are not ruled by scarcity. This shifts the mind from grasping to trusting, from fear to abundance. Over time, generosity becomes a habit, a way of living that opens the heart. Anxiety softens, replaced by the quiet confidence that life supports us when we live in alignment with compassion. Contentment is the crown jewel of financial freedom. To practice contentment is to pause and say, what I have now is enough. This does not mean we stop working or stop improving our lives. It means that peace is not postponed until the future. Contentment brings joy to the present. The Buddha once said, health is the greatest gift, contentment the greatest wealth, trust the best relationship, and nirvana the highest joy. In this teaching, wealth is redefined, not as dollars, but as a state of mind. Think of a person who always waits for the next raise to relax, the next purchase to smile, the next milestone to rest. Their life becomes a waiting room, filled with tension. Contrast this with someone who sits under a tree, breathing deeply, grateful for the breeze. That person is already rich, without needing more. The difference is not in possessions, but in perception. Contentment is wealth that no thief, no market, no disaster can steal. It is also important to confront the shame around money. In many cultures, people avoid speaking about financial struggles, hiding debt or fear as if it were a personal failure. This silence isolates them, deepening anxiety. But the Dharma invites honesty. Suffering is not shameful. It is part of being human. When people share openly about money challenges, they discover they are not alone. Compassion flows and solutions appear. Just as a wound heals faster when exposed to air, financial wounds heal when met with openness and support. There is a Zen story of a monk who asked his teacher, "What is wealth?" The teacher replied, "To be content with what you have, and to share what you can." The monk pressed further, "But what if I have nothing?" The teacher smiled. "Then share your presence, your kindness, your smile. True wealth is not measured in coins." This story reminds us that generosity and abundance are not limited to money. They are qualities of the heart. Practical steps can also help. Creating mindful budgets, simplifying lifestyles, and reducing unnecessary consumption align with Buddhist teachings of moderation and awareness. These steps reduce financial stress, not only because they manage money better, but because they reflect deeper values. Each time we choose simplicity over excess, we reaffirm freedom. Each time we choose gratitude over craving, we plant seeds of peace. Still, financial anxiety may return, just as stress does. The path is not about eliminating all fear, but about transforming how we respond to it. When fear arises, instead of drowning in it, we notice it, breathe with it, and remind ourselves of impermanence. We remember that money is a tool, not an ought. Identity. We recall the joy of generosity, the relief of simplicity, the strength of contentment. Slowly, anxiety loosens its grip. As we close this chapter, let us reflect. Money will always play a role in life, but it does not have to control the heart. We can work hard, provide for our families, save wisely, and still live with peace. The difference is not in the amount we possess, but in the freedom we bring to it. When money serves us instead of ruling. U.S. Financial anxiety fades, and the heart becomes light. Now the path leads us into another deep struggle, relationships. Even with money in the bank and stress under control, the human heart longs for connection. Yet relationships often bring the sharpest pains: conflict, misunderstanding, betrayal, and loss. In the next part of our journey, we will open the door to love and suffering in human bonds, and see how the wisdom of compassion and mindfulness can heal the wounds that money cannot touch. Every human being carries a deep longing for connection. From the moment we are born, we seek warmth, touch, and love. Relationships are the fabric of life, between parents and children, partners, friends, colleagues, and communities. They hold the potential for joy greater than any material possession. Yet at the same time, relationships often carry the deepest wounds. Stress and money may trouble us, but heartbreak, betrayal, or loneliness can pierce the soul in ways no financial burden ever could dot in modern life. Relationships are under immense pressure. People live busy, fragmented lives, rushing from one task to another. Technology creates constant contact, but often without depth. Couples sit together, yet stare at separate screens. Families gather, but speak little, each distracted by their own worries. Friends drift apart, replaced by online likes that feel shallow compared to a genuine embrace. In this environment, many people feel isolated even while surrounded by others. Loneliness has been called an epidemic, not because people lack company, but because they lack connection. Conflicts in relationships are also widespread. Partners argue about money, chores, or unspoken resentments. Parents and children clash over expectations. Friends fall apart due to misunderstandings. At the root of many conflicts is not cruelty, but unmet needs and unspoken pain. Yet without awareness, these conflicts harden into anger, distance, or silence. The people we most love become the people we most hurt. Why are relationships so difficult? Buddhism offers a profound insight. Suffering arises when we cling to people as if they can complete us, control them as if they must meet all our needs, or resist them when they do not match our desires. In relationships, attachment often disguises itself as love. We say, "I love you," but hidden beneath is often, "I need you to make me feel whole, safe, important." When the other person cannot fulfill this demand, as no human being fully can, pain follows. Disappointment turns into anger, and love twists into suffering. Imagine holding a bird in your hand. If you grip too tightly, the bird suffocates. If you hold too loosely, the bird flies away. True love, according to Buddhist teaching, is not grasping or neglect, but freedom. It is holding the bird gently, allowing it to breathe and flourish. This is what the Buddha called metta, or loving kindness, a love that wishes for the happiness of the other, not only for our own satisfaction. But in modern culture, love is often confused with possession. Movies and songs tell us that we must find the one who will complete us. People enter relationships believing the other person will erase loneliness, fix insecurity, or provide endless happiness. But no partner, no matter how kind, can carry that weight. When the illusion breaks, heartbreak comes. The Buddha's teaching reminds us that true love begins not with possession, but with freedom and compassion. It is not about filling a hole in our heart with another person, but about learning to share from a place of wholeness. Another challenge in relationships is communication. Stress and money, the topics we explored before, often spill into conversations, making them tense. Words become sharp, not because the heart intends harm, but because the mind is clouded. The Buddha emphasized right speechy speaking with truth, kindness, and intention. Imagine how many conflicts would soften if people paused before speaking, asking, "Is this true? Is this kind? Is this necessary?" A gentle word has the power to heal, while a careless word can wound for years. Mindful speech is not weakness. It is strength, the strength to protect love rather than destroy it. Let us consider an example. A husband comes home late from work. His wife, tired and lonely, greets him with anger. "You never care about me. Work is always more important." He feels attacked and replies, "I work hard for this family, and you never appreciate me." The argument escalates, each feeling unheard. But imagine if she paused, breathed, and said instead, "I missed you today. I felt lonely and wished for your presence." And if he responded, "I understand, and I'm sorry. I want to spend more time with you," the situation shifts completely. The truth is spoken, but with kindness and vulnerability, not blame. This is the practice of mindful communication. Relationships also mirror our inner world. Often, what we criticize in others reflects what we struggle with inside. Impatience, insecurity, fear, these emotions project outward, making others seem like the problem. But when we turn inward, practicing mindfulness, we see our own role in the conflict. This does not mean taking all the blame, but recognizing that relationships are co-created. The Buddha compared life to two sticks rubbing together. Alone, they cannot produce fire. Together, they ignite. In the same way, conflict arises not from one person alone, but from the meeting of two unexamined minds. Forgiveness is another vital practice. In every relationship, people hurt each other sometimes by mistake, sometimes through ignorance, sometimes in weakness. Holding on to resentment is like carrying hot coals, hoping to throw them at the other, but burning ourselves first. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting or excusing harm. It means choosing not to be imprisoned by anger. It is a release, a letting go that frees both the giver and the receiver. In this way, forgiveness becomes a gift we offer to ourselves as much as to the other. But what about loneliness? The pain of relationships not formed or connections lost. Many people live alone or feel alone even within relationships. They scroll endlessly through images of others' happiness, believing something is wrong with them. Loneliness is sharp because it touches our basic human need for belonging. Yet Buddhism teaches that we are never truly separate. We are interdependent, like waves on the same ocean. Even when alone in a room, we are connected to countless beings, the farmers who grew our food, the workers who built our home, the strangers who share our air. When we touch this truth, loneliness softens. We begin to see that we belong not only to one person, but to the whole web of life. Meditation on loving kindness is a powerful antidote to loneliness. Sitting quietly, we begin by offering love to ourselves. May I be safe. May I be healthy. May I be happy. May I live with ease. Then we extend this wish to others, a friend, a stranger, even someone difficult. Slowly, the circle widens until it includes all beings. This practice awakens the heart, reminding us that love is not something we wait to receive, but something we generate. The more we cultivate it, the less we feel empty, because the source of love is within. Relationships will never be perfect. They will always include misunderstandings, differences, and challenges. But with mindfulness, compassion, and forgiveness, relationships can become powerful teachers. They show us where we cling, where we resist, where we need to grow. They invite us to practice patience, generosity, and love. In this way, relationships transform from sources of suffering into opportunities for awakening as we step forward. We must go even deeper. We have seen how stress unsettles us, how money enslaves us, and how relationships challenge us. Beneath all of these lies a more fundamental struggle: fear and anxiety itself. Anxiety is the trembling ground under all. Other pains, the fear of loss, of failure, of rejection, of death. In the next section, we will walk into the heart of anxiety, exploring its roots and discovering how the Buddha's wisdom can guide us to freedom. Even in the face of fear, conflict is inevitable in human connection. No matter how much love exists, no two people see the world in exactly the same way. Differences in opinion, personality, and background create tension. Sometimes the conflict is small, like disagreements over chores or schedules. Other times, it is deep, involving betrayal, broken trust, or years of resentment. Many fear conflict, believing it means love is failing. But Buddhism teaches that conflict is not the end of love, it is part of life itself. The question is, not whether conflict arises, but how we meet it. When conflict appears, the natural impulse is to defend ourselves. Words sharpen, voices rise, and hearts close. The mind creates a story. I am right, and you are wrong. This story fuels anger, making it nearly impossible to listen. The Buddha described anger as a fire that burns the one who holds it first. We think we are throwing flames at the other, but in truth, we are burning our own peace. Recognizing this is the first step toward transformation. Mindfulness offers a different path. When anger arises, we pause. Instead of reacting instantly, we breathe. We notice the heat in the chest, the tightness in the jaw, the racing thoughts. This pause creates space. It reminds us that we have a choice. We can fuel the fire, or we can let it cool. Mindfulness does not mean suppressing anger. It means observing it without letting it control us. Just as clouds pass across the sky, anger too can pass when we do not cling to it. Communication during conflict is an art. The Buddha taught right speech words that are true, kind, and timely. Imagine two partners in disagreement. One says, "You never listen to me." The other responds, "You always criticize me." Both feel attacked, and the cycle continues. But if the first instead says, "When I speak and feel unheard, I feel lonely," the message changes. It is no longer blame, but vulnerability. Vulnerability invites empathy. Empathy opens the door to healing. Listening is equally important. Often, during arguments, people listen only to reply, not to understand. True listening is like holding a bowl under a stream of water. It receives fully without trying to change. The flow. When we listen deeply, without preparing a defense, we hear not only words, but also the pain beneath them. A partner's anger may hide fear of abandonment. A child's rebellion may hide a cry for attention. When we hear the heart beneath the words, compassion naturally arises. Forgiveness is the bridge between conflict and healing. Without forgiveness, relationships become prisons of the past. Old wounds are replayed, old mistakes repeated, and love suffocates under the weight of memory. But forgiveness does not mean pretending harm never happened. It means choosing not to be ruled by bitterness. It means saying, "I will not let this pain define our future." Forgiveness begins within. Sometimes the hardest person to forgive is ourselves. We replay mistakes endlessly, drowning in guilt. But Buddhism teaches that clinging to guilt does not erase harm. It only deepens suffering. True atonement comes from recognition, apology, and a sincere effort to change. Once these steps are taken, guilt can be released. Forgiving ourselves is not indulgence. It is the foundation for forgiving others. Only when we treat ourselves with compassion can we extend the same to those around us. The art of letting go is closely tied to forgiveness. Many people hold on to grudges like treasures. They replay old arguments, rehearse what they should have said, and carry anger for years. But holding on to anger is like carrying a heavy backpack everywhere. It drains energy, clouds joy, and poisons relationships. Letting go does not mean forgetting or condoning harm. It means deciding that peace is more valuable than bitterness. It means setting down the backpack. There is a Zen parable of two monks traveling together. They came to a river where a woman stood, unable to cross. One monk, against the rules of their order, carried her across. Hours later, the other monk burst out, "Why did you carry that woman? We are forbiddens." The first monk replied calmly, "I put her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" This story reveals the essence of letting go. The event had passed, but one monk still carried it in his heart. We do the same when we hold grudges. The past cannot be changed, but it can be released out in relationships. Letting go also means releasing expectations. Many conflicts arise because we expect others to fulfill every need or match our ideals. We demand constant attention, perfect understanding, or unchanging devotion. But people are imperfect. They change, they falter, they grow in directions we may not expect. Clinging to rigid expectations guarantees disappointment. Letting go means embracing others as they are, not as we wish them to be. This acceptance does not erase problems, but it opens space for authentic connection. Compassion deepens when we see that everyone carries pain. A partner's harsh words may come from their own stress. A friend's distance may come from hidden struggles. A parent's criticism may come from their own unhealed wounds. When we look beyond behavior to the suffering beneath, forgiveness becomes easier. We no longer see enemies, but fellow travelers on the path of human struggle. Still, forgiveness is not always instant. Some wounds are deep, and healing takes time. Buddhism does not demand forced forgiveness. It invites gradual release. Each breath, each meditation, is a step toward softening. We may begin by simply wishing the other well, even if we cannot yet speak kindly. Over time, the heart opens, like a bud slowly turning into a flower. Patience is part of the practice. Relationships thrive not on perfection, but on continuous renewal. Each day is an opportunity to begin again. Morning arguments can be followed by evening apologies. Old habits can be replaced with new choices. The Buddha said, "In the sky, there is no distinction between east and west." People create distinctions in their minds and then believe them to be true. In the same way, we create divisions in relationships. Forgiveness and letting go dissolve those walls, reminding us that connection is always possible. As we conclude this exploration of relationships, we see that love is not the absence of pain, but the presence of compassion. Conflict, anger, and disappointment are natural, but they do not have to destroy love. With mindfulness, right speech, forgiveness, and letting go, relationships become places of growth, mirrors that reflect our own path to awakening. And now, we turn to a force even more subtle and pervasive: anxiety. Beyond stress, beyond money, beyond relationships, there is the undercurrent of fear that colors every experience. Anxiety whispers in the night, quickens the heart, and clouds the mind. It is not tied to one event, but to the uncertainty of life itself. In the next part of our journey, we will step into the heart of anxiety, uncovering its roots, and discovering how Buddhist wisdom can guide us to peace, even in the face of the unknown. Anxiety is the trembling ground beneath so much of modern suffering. Stress may come from daily pressures, money from financial burdens, and relationships from conflict. But underneath all of these lies a deeper unease. Anxiety is the constant hum in the background of life, whispering that something will go wrong, that danger is near, that we are not safe. For many, it is not a sudden storm, but a steady drizzle, soaking every corner of the mind. Even in moments of calm, anxiety waits, ready to rise again. In today's world, Anxiety has become nearly universal. Children worry about grades and fitting in. Adults worry about careers, health, and family. The elderly worry about illness and mortality. News headlines amplify fear with stories of violence, disaster, and uncertainty. Social media adds to it, creating constant comparison and pressure. Doctors speak of anxiety disorders, but beyond diagnosis, there is the ordinary anxiety that millions carry silently. A quickened heartbeat before sleep. A constant sense of not enough. A restless mind that will not rest. Why is anxiety so powerful? Because it is rooted in fear of the unknown. Human beings crave control. We want to know what tomorrow will bring, to prepare for every possibility, to guarantee safety. But life is unpredictable. Jobs can vanish, health can change, accidents can happen, people can leave. This uncertainty is unbearable to the anxious mind. It tries to create security by worrying, as if constant fear could prevent loss. Yet worry does not prevent tomorrow's problems, it only steals today's peace. The Buddha spoke clearly about fear. He said that clinging to impermanent things creates suffering, and fear is the natural result of that clinging. We fear losing what we love. We fear not getting what we crave. We fear the inevitability of aging, sickness, and death. Anxiety is the shadow of attachment. The more we hold, the more we fear letting go. Imagine standing on the shore, holding tightly to a sandcastle. The tide rises, waves approach, and anxiety screams. Protect it. Save it. But no matter how tightly we guard it, the water will come. Life is like this. We cannot stop the tide of change. The attempt to do so creates endless fear. But what if, instead of clinging, we learn to dance with the tide? To accept that the waves will come, and that peace is possible even as they wash over us? This is the invitation of Buddhist practice. Mindfulness is the first step. Anxiety thrives in the future, in endless what ifs. What if I fail? What if I get sick? What if I'm alone forever? These thoughts spin like a wheel, faster and faster, until the mind is exhausted. Mindfulness brings us back to the present. In this breath, what is true? In this moment, am I safe? Usually, the answer is yes. The mind invents storms that do not exist, but mindfulness brings us back to the ground beneath our feet. Consider lying in bed, thoughts racing, bills, health, work, relationships. The heart pounds, the breath shortens. Anxiety builds a story of doom. But if we pause, place a hand on the chest, and breathe slowly, we notice the rise and fall of breath. We feel the mattress holding us. We hear the quiet of the room. In this moment, nothing catastrophic is happening. The anxiety is real, but the danger is imagined. This simple recognition is powerful. It breaks the illusion that fear is truth. Compassion is the second step. Many people judge themselves for anxiety. They say, I should be stronger. I should not feel this way. This judgment deepens the pain, layering shame on top of fear. But compassion says, this is hard. I am doing my best. Anxiety is not weakness. It is part of being human. Even the Buddha faced fear. Stories tell of him sitting beneath the Bodhi tree as Mara, the personification of fear and desire, attacked with armies and storms. The Buddha did not fight or run. He sat, breathed, and touched the earth, saying, "The earth is my witness." With calm presence, Mara's illusions dissolved. This story shows us that fear loses power when met with steady awareness. Not resistance, non-attachment is the third step. Anxiety grows from trying to control the uncontrollable. We cling to outcomes, demanding that life follow our plan. But life does not obey. Non-attachment does not mean indifference. It means caring deeply, but releasing the demand for certainty. It means working for health, safety, and love, but accepting that we cannot control every detail. In this letting go, anxiety loosens. Like opening a clenched fist, we discover space for peace. One powerful practice is meditation on impermanence. Sit quietly and reflect. Everything changes. The breath rises and falls. Thoughts come and go. Emotions appear and fade. Even anxiety, which feels endless, is not permanent. It rises, peaks, and passes like a wave. When we observe this directly, we see that we do not need to fight fear. We only need to watch it change. Anxiety becomes less like a prison and more like weather, sometimes stormy, sometimes calm, but always moving. Another practice is grounding. When anxiety pulls us into the future, we return to the senses. Feel the feet on the ground. Listen to sounds around you. Notice colors, shapes, textures. This anchors us in the present, where life is happening. A worried mind may scream, "Disaster is near," but the body, rooted in the present, says, "Here, right now, I am okay." This simple practice interrupts the cycle of worry and restores perspective. Fear also hides in silence. Many carry anxiety alone, afraid to speak of it. But sharing fear with a trusted friend, counselor, or community can bring relief. Words release what the heart cannot carry by itself. Compassion grows when we see that others too live with fear. No one is alone in this struggle. The Buddha created the Sangha, a community, because he knew that support is essential. In the presence of others, anxiety loses its sharpest edge. Still, anxiety will always return. The goal is not to eliminate it forever, but to transform our relationship with it. Anxiety is a teacher. It shows us where we cling, where we fear, where we long for control. Each time it arises, it invites us to practice, to breathe, to soften, to let go. Slowly, anxiety becomes less of a monster and more of a reminder. A reminder to return to the present, to trust impermanence, to practice compassion. As we close this section, remember, fear is part of being human, but it does not have to rule us. The waves of life will always come, but we can learn to float. Anxiety may knock, but we do not need to let it take over the house of our mind. With mindfulness, compassion, and non-attachment, we can live fully even in uncertainty. And yet, anxiety is not only about daily worries. It often grows deeper into existential fear, the fear of death, meaninglessness, and the vast unknown. In the next section, we will step further into this deeper layer of fear and see how Buddhist wisdom offers not just comfort, but a profound liberation from the grip of anxiety itself. Fear of death is perhaps the deepest form of anxiety. Beneath worries about health, money, and relationships lies this ultimate fear, the fear of losing everything. Death is the great unknown, the horizon that every human must face. For many, the mere thought of it brings dread. Hearts race, hands sweat, and the mind resists even imagining the end. This fear shapes countless choices, often unconsciously. People cling to youth, chase achievements, or accumulate wealth, all in an attempt to push death further away or leave a legacy behind. Yet despite all efforts, death remains certain. Buddhism does not turn away from this truth. The Buddha encouraged his followers to contemplate death regularly, not to fall into despair, but to awaken. To remember death is to remember impermanence, that nothing lasts forever. Far from being morbid, this reflection brings clarity. It strips away illusions and reveals what truly matters. When we see that life is fragile, we stop wasting time on trivial pursuits. We begin to live more fully, more mindfully, more compassionately. Impermanence, or anicca, is a central teaching of the Dharma. Everything changes: youth to age, health to sickness, birth to death. This truth is not meant to frighten, but to liberate. Anxiety arises when we try to hold on to what must change. We cling to beauty, relationships, possessions, as if they could stay forever. But when change comes, as it always does, we suffer. By accepting impermanence, we loosen the grip of fear. We see that change is not an enemy, but the nature of life itself. Consider the seasons. Spring blossoms into summer, which fades into autumn, then into winter. No season lasts forever, yet each has its beauty. To demand eternal spring would be to miss the richness of the cycle. Life is the same. Birth, growth, decay, death. Each stage holds meaning. To resist this truth is to suffer. To embrace it is to find peace even in the face of death. There is a Zen story of a monk who is asked, "What happens after death?" The monk replied, "I do not know." The questioner pressed, "But you are a monk, shouldn't you know?" The monk smiled and said, "Yes, but I am not yet dead." This story shows the humility of Buddhist wisdom. Instead of speculating about what cannot be known, it invites us to focus on what is certain. This moment, this breath, this life. Anxiety about the unknown fades when we learn to live fully here and now. Meditation on death, known as Maranasati, is a practice that softens fear. Sitting quietly, we reflect, "I too will die. Death is certain. The time of death is uncertain." At first, this reflection may feel heavy, but over time, it brings freedom. We stop clinging to the illusion of endless time. We prioritize what matters: love, compassion, truth over endless distractions. Death becomes not a terrifying enemy, but a wise teacher, reminding us to live well. Loss of loved ones is another source of deep anxiety. When someone close to us dies, the heart breaks. Grief floods in, and the world feels empty. This pain is real and cannot be denied. Buddhism does not tell us to suppress grief. It invites us to feel it fully, to honor the love that gave rise to it. Grief is the shadow of love. To grieve deeply is to have loved deeply. Mindfulness helps us hold grief gently, allowing tears to flow without drowning in them. Over time, we see that love does not end with death. The influence of those we love continues in our memories, in our actions, in the kindness they inspired. The Buddha taught that clinging to permanence in relationships causes suffering. We want loved ones to stay forever, but they too are subject to impermanence. When we accept this, our love changes. It becomes more present, more grateful. Instead of taking people for granted, we cherish each moment, knowing it will not last. In this way, awareness of death deepens love rather than diminishing it. Another practice is contemplating the body. In meditation, we reflect that the body ages, changes, and one day will cease. This is not meant to create disgust, but to reduce attachment. We often identify so strongly with the body, fearing its decline. But when we see it as part of nature, like leaves that grow and fall, fear softens. We begin to recognize that what we truly are is not only this body, but also the awareness that observes it. The Buddha described nirvana as the end of fear, the release from clinging. When we no longer cling to permanence, death loses its terror. We see it as part of the flow of existence. Just as a wave rises and falls back into the ocean, so too do we arise and return. The wave is not separate from the ocean. It is the ocean in form. In the same way, our lives are not separate from the greater whole of existence. Death is not disappearance, but transformation. Modern culture often hides death. People die in hospitals, away from sight. Funerals are quick, grief is rushed, and the topic is avoided. This avoidance fuels anxiety, making death seem monstrous. But in traditions where death is faced openly, fear diminishes. In some Buddhist communities, Monks meditate in cemeteries, sitting with the reality of impermanence. This practice strips away illusions and brings deep peace. By facing death directly, they discover the freedom of no longer fearing it. Anxiety about death is also anxiety about meaning. People fear that life will end without purpose, that achievements will fade, that they will be forgotten. But Buddhism offers a different view of meaning. Meaning is not found in lasting monuments or eternal fame. Meaning is found in each moment of awareness, in each act of compassion. A kind word, a helping hand, a moment of presence. These ripple outward in ways we cannot measure. They are not erased by death. They live on in the fabric of existence. There is a story of a disciple who asked the Buddha, "How should we live, knowing death will come?" The Buddha replied, "Live mindfully with compassion. Do not waste your days chasing illusions. Live so that when death arrives, you can greet it as an old friend." This teaching reframes death. Instead of an enemy, it becomes a reminder. To live authentically. As we close this exploration, we see that anxiety about death softens when we embrace impermanence. Instead of resisting change, we accept it. Instead of fearing loss, we cherish the present. Instead of clinging to permanence, we live in gratitude for each fleeting moment. Death is certain, but fear is optional. Through mindfulness, compassion, and non-attachment, we can live fully and die peacefully. And now, our journey leads us into another form of suffering that often grows from anxiety, loneliness, and isolation. Even surrounded by people, many feel empty inside, disconnected from others and from themselves. In the next part, we will explore this pain and see how Buddhist wisdom reveals a deeper sense of connection, one that transcends separation and heals the wounds of loneliness. Loneliness is one of the great hidden pains of the modern world. It is a silence that echoes even in crowded cities, a hollow feeling that lingers even when surrounded by family or friends. Many people live in constant contact through phones, emails, and social media, yet feel more isolated than ever. The paradox of our age is that we are more connected digitally, but less connected emotionally. We scroll through endless images of others' lives, yet hunger for a genuine embrace, a voice that listens without judgment, a heart that understands. In America, surveys often reveal that millions report feeling alone on a daily basis. Some describe it as emptiness, others as invisibility. The elderly feel forgotten, their children busy with their own lives. Young people feel disconnected, comparing themselves to carefully curated images online and concluding that they do not belong. Middle-aged adults feel caught between responsibilities, with no time left for deep friendships. Loneliness cuts across age, class, and culture, touching the lives of nearly everyone at some point. Why does loneliness feel so sharp? Because human beings are relational by nature. We are born into dependence, shaped by family, nurtured by community. Connection is not a luxury, it is a basic need. To be isolated is to feel unsafe, unsupported, incomplete. The body reacts to loneliness as it does to physical pain. Studies even show that chronic loneliness can harm health as much as smoking or obesity. But beyond the body, loneliness pierces the soul. It whispers, "You do not matter. You are unseen. You are unloved." These are the deepest fears of the human heart. Buddhism offers a profound way to look at loneliness. At its root, loneliness comes from the illusion of separation. We believe we are isolated individuals, cut off from the world. We see ourselves as small islands in a vast sea, but the Dharma teaches interdependence, that all beings are connected, like waves on the same ocean. Our lives are woven into countless others. The food we eat connects us to farmers, the clothes we wear to workers, the air we breathe to trees. Even when alone in a room, we are never truly separate. Loneliness arises when we forget this truth. Mindfulness helps us touch this reality. When loneliness rises, instead of drowning in it, we pause. We breathe and observe. This is loneliness. This is what it feels like in my chest, in my thoughts. Naming it brings distance. We begin to see loneliness not as proof that we are broken, but as a passing experience, like clouds moving through the sky. In this moment of awareness, the sharpness softens. We remember, I am not the loneliness itself. I am the awareness that sees it. Compassion is the next step. Loneliness often turns inward as self-criticism. We tell ourselves, something must be wrong with me. That is why I'm alone. This deepens suffering. But compassion invites a different voice. This is hard. Many others feel this too. I am not alone in loneliness. When we treat ourselves kindly, the walls of isolation begin to crack. Compassion opens a door, first within, then outward. There is a meditation known as metta or loving kindness that is especially powerful against loneliness. We sit quietly, breathe, and repeat phrases. May I be safe. May I be healthy. May I be happy. May I live with ease. At first, the words may feel mechanical, but over time, they soften the heart. Then we extend the same wishes to others, loved ones, strangers, even those we struggle with. Eventually, the circle expands to all beings. This practice reminds us that love is not something we must wait to receive. It is something we can generate within ourselves. As loving kindness grows, loneliness shrinks. Another practice is presence. Often, loneliness persists even when others are near because we are not fully present. We are distracted, preoccupied, or guarded. But when we practice deep presence listening with full attention, looking into another's eyes without rushing, sharing silence without fear, we create connection. Presence is rare in modern life, which is why it feels so powerful. A single moment of genuine presence can dissolve hours of loneliness. Community, or Sangha, is also essential. The Buddha did not teach in isolation. He built a community of practitioners to support each other. He knew that the path is difficult alone. In the same way, we too need companions. This does not mean a large social circle. Even a small group of people who share honesty, kindness, and support can nourish the heart deeply. Community is not about numbers, but about depth. Imagine a person who feels utterly alone, believing no one cares. They walk into a meditation hall and sit quietly among others. No words are spoken, yet a shift occurs. The simple act of breathing together, of sharing silence, creates connection. The heart realizes, I belong here. I am not separate. This is the healing power of community. But what if community feels out of reach? Some live in places where connection is scarce. Some struggle with shyness or past wounds. Here, Buddhism reminds us that solitude and loneliness are not the same. Solitude can be nourishing. In solitude, we learn to befriend ourselves, to sit with our own company without fear. Meditation transforms solitude into sanctuary. When we discover peace within, we are never truly alone. Nature too offers connection. Sitting under a tree, walking by a river, gazing at the stars, we feel part of something vast. The trees breathe with us. The water flows with us. The universe holds us. Loneliness shrinks when we realize that we are part of a living web. Each breath connects us to countless beings who share this same earth. Still, loneliness can return, especially in moments of loss, when relationships end, when loved ones die, when friendships fade. The pain of absence is real. Buddhism does not ask us to deny it. Instead, it invites us to hold it with tenderness. Grief and loneliness are reminders of love. They show that we have cared deeply. To feel lonely is to recognize the value of connection. Seen this way, Loneliness becomes not only pain, but also a teacher, guiding us toward deeper compassion for ourselves and others. As we close this section, we see that loneliness, though painful, carries within it the seed of connection. By practicing mindfulness, compassion, presence, and community, we discover that we are never truly separate. Loneliness is a cloud, but beneath it, the sky of connection is vast and clear. Now we turn to the next step in this journey. Loneliness is tied to another common pain of modern life: the endless pursuit of identity and validation. People construct masks, chase recognition, and fear rejection. This search for identity brings suffering as deep as loneliness itself. In the next section, we will explore how clinging to identity fuels isolation and how Buddhist wisdom helps us discover freedom. In authenticity and belonging, loneliness is not always about physical isolation. Many people sit at dinner tables with family, attend parties filled with laughter, or work in bustling offices, and yet feel profoundly alone. This is a loneliness not of absence, but of disconnection. It arises when we feel unseen, unheard, or unvalued. It arises when we wear masks, hiding our true selves for fear of rejection. It arises when we crave recognition and validation so intensely that without them, we feel invisible. Modern culture intensifies this craving. Social media rewards images over authenticity. People share polished versions of themselves, carefully curated to appear successful, happy, and loved. Behind the screens, many struggle with anxiety, insecurity, or emptiness. Yet the pressure to keep up appearances forces them to hide their pain. The result is a world where millions feel isolated, not because they are alone, but because they cannot reveal who they truly are. Loneliness thrives in this gap between appearance and reality. At the heart of this suffering is the illusion of a fixed self. Buddhism teaches anatta, the doctrine of non-self. We believe we are solid identities, our names, jobs, roles, reputations. We cling to these as if they are who we are. But in truth, the self is fluid, ever-changing, like a flame that depends on fuel or a river that never stays the same. When we cling to an identity, we fear its loss. If our career falters, we feel worthless. If our relationships change, we feel abandoned. If our image is criticized, we feel shattered. This is why recognition feels so important, we mistake it for proof of existence. Imagine building a house on sand. Each wave threatens to wash it away, so we work endlessly to fortify it, never resting. This is how we treat identity. We construct fragile selves, then exhaust ourselves defending them. The hunger for recognition is endless, because no amount of praise or approval can stabilize something that is not fixed. This hunger creates profound loneliness. Even surrounded by admirers, the heart whispers, "They do not see the real me. They only see the mask." Mindfulness begins to free us. When we observe our thoughts and feelings, we see how identity shifts moment by moment. One moment we are confident, the next insecure. One moment we feel loving, the next resentful. There is no single, unchanging self, only a flow of experiences. When we stop clinging to a fixed self, we stop fearing its collapse. We realize that we do not need constant recognition to prove our worth. Our existence is already valid simply because we are alive, breathing. Aware. Compassion deepens this freedom. Instead of demanding others see and approve us, we learn to see and accept ourselves. Self-compassion is not arrogance. It is honesty. It says, "I am human. I have strengths and weaknesses. I deserve kindness, just as all beings do." When we hold ourselves with compassion, the craving for external validation softens. Loneliness shrinks because we are no longer abandoning ourselves in the search for approval. There is a story of a monk who is insulted by villagers. Instead of responding with anger, he bowed and thanked them. Surprised, they asked why. He replied, "When people give me something I do not want, I do not take it. Your insults remain with you, not with me." This story teaches us that our worth is not determined by others' opinions. Praise and blame are like gifts. We can choose whether to receive them. When we see this clearly, the prison of needing recognition dissolves. Authenticity is another path out of loneliness. To live authentically is to drop the mask and reveal our true selves, our fears, our imperfections. This is risky, because rejection is possible, but it is the only way to form real connection. When we present only masks, we may be admired but not truly known. Authenticity invites deeper belonging, because it allows others to meet us as we are, not as we pretend to be. Even if not everyone accepts us, those who do will connect with something real. This realness dissolves loneliness in a way that approval never can. Community built on authenticity is transformative. In Buddhist sanghas, practitioners sit together in silence, sharing presence rather than performance. No one needs to impress or prove themselves. The shared commitment to mindfulness creates an atmosphere where masks fall away. Such communities remind us that belonging does not require perfection, only presence. We belong simply because we are part of the human family. Meditation on loving kindness expands this belonging. As we radiate wishes of well-being to ourselves, loved ones, strangers, and all beings, we dissolve the illusion of separation. We begin to feel that we are part of a vast web of life, each being precious, each deserving compassion. This practice softens the edges of loneliness by widening our sense of identity beyond the small I to the great we. But what about the deep fear of being forgotten, of leaving no mark? Many chase recognition to feel immortal. They hope achievements or fame will preserve their identity. Yet Buddhism teaches that clinging to permanence only deepens suffering. True legacy is not in names carved in stone, but in kindness rippling outward. A smile given to a stranger may inspire a chain of goodness beyond what we ever see. Our worth is not measured by recognition, but by the love we share. Letting go of the craving for recognition does not mean withdrawing from life. It means engaging fully, but without the hunger to be validated. We still work, create, and relate, but from freedom rather than fear. This shift changes everything. Relationships become genuine, not transactions for approval. Work becomes service, not a performance for praise. Life becomes lighter because we are no longer dragging the heavy burden of proving ourselves. Loneliness rooted in identity softens when we realize we are more than any role or reputation. We are awareness itself, spacious, fluid, connected. When we live from this truth, the walls of isolation crumble. We no longer beg the world to see us because we see ourselves clearly. And in seeing ourselves, we naturally see others with compassion. Connection deepens, not through masks, but through shared humanity. As we close this section, we see that the path through loneliness is not in chasing more recognition, but in releasing the illusion of self. By practicing mindfulness, compassion, authenticity, and loving kindness, we discover a belonging that no criticism can erase and no absence can diminish. Now we turn to another form of suffering that touches nearly everyone, the struggle with meaning and purpose. Even when people escape stress, money worries, or loneliness, they often ask, what is the point of it all? In the next part of our journey, we will step into the search for meaning, exploring how Buddhist wisdom transforms emptiness into fullness and how purpose arises naturally when we live with awareness and compassion. There is a unique kind of suffering that haunts many in the modern world. It is not the sharp sting of stress, not the heavy weight of money worries, not even the piercing loneliness of isolation. It is a quieter pain, harder to name, but deeply felt the sense of emptiness, the nagging question of meaning. People achieve success, buy homes, raise families, and still feel a void inside. They lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering, is this all there is? This crisis of meaning is widespread. In America, surveys show rising rates of depression and despair even as material wealth increases. Technology offers comfort and entertainment, yet leaves many numb. Social media provides endless distraction, but rarely true fulfillment. The result is a culture where many feel lost, drifting without anchor. They may look successful on the outside, but inside they feel like wanderers without a map. Why does this emptiness arise? Buddhism points to the nature of craving and impermanence. When we chase happiness in possessions, achievements, or status, we are chasing shadows. Each time we grasp one, it slips away. The promotion that once seemed life-changing becomes normal. After a few months, the new house loses its shine. The relationship that once thrilled us faces conflict. Life moves and everything changes. If our meaning depends on what is impermanent, it will always dissolve, leaving us empty once again. This is why so many live in cycles of chasing and disappointment. They think, if only I reach this goal, I will finally feel whole. But after each goal, the hunger returns. It is like running on a treadmill, expending energy without moving forward. The sense of emptiness is not failure. It is a sign that we are searching for meaning in the wrong places. Consider the image of a bucket with a hole at the bottom. No matter how much water we pour in, money, recognition, experiences, it leaks out. The bucket never stays full. This is what happens when we try to fill the void of meaning with external things. The problem is not the water, but the hole. Until we see and address the hole, the emptiness remains. The Buddhist teaching begins by naming this suffering directly. He called it dukkha, the unsatisfactoriness of existence. Even when life is pleasant, it is tinged with impermanence and loss. To recognize this truth is not to fall into despair, but to begin awakening. By seeing the emptiness of worldly pursuits, we open to a deeper, lasting form of meaning. So what is true meaning? In Buddhism, meaning is not found in chasing permanence, but in cultivating awareness, compassion, and wisdom. Meaning is not something out there to be hunted and captured. It arises naturally when we live fully in the present moment, connected to ourselves and others. Instead of asking, what will make my life meaningful? We ask, how can I live this moment with awareness and love? Mindfulness is the doorway. When we stop racing for the future and attend to the present, we discover richness where we once saw emptiness. Washing dishes becomes an act of care. Sharing a meal becomes an opportunity for gratitude. Walking down the street becomes a chance to marvel at life unfolding. This does not erase challenges, but it reveals beauty hidden in ordinary things. The void begins to fill, not with possessions, but with presence. Compassion deepens this meaning. When we reach beyond ourselves to care for others, life expands. The emptiness of self-centered striving transforms into the fullness of shared humanity. A single act of kindness, a listening ear, a warm smile, a helping hand creates ripples that stretch beyond what we can see. Each act of compassion affirms that life matters, not because of what we achieve, but because of how we connect. There is a story of a young man who asked a monk, "How do I find purpose?" The monk replied, "When you wake each morning, ask, who can I serve today? What love can I give today? What beauty can I notice today?" Purpose is not hidden in the distance. It is born in these choices. This teaching reflects the Buddhist view that meaning is not a fixed destination, but a living practice. Emptiness itself, or sunyata, is another central teaching. At first, emptiness may sound frightening, as if life is void of value. But in Buddhism, Emptiness means that things have no fixed, independent essence. Everything exists in interdependence. A flower is empty of separate self. It depends on sun, rain, soil, and countless causes. Yet in that emptiness lies fullness, because it connects the flower to the entire universe. In the same way, when we realize that the self is empty of permanence, we see that we are deeply connected to all. This insight transforms the void into vastness. Loneliness shifts into belonging. Still, the modern search for meaning often resists this truth. People want fixed answers, a grand purpose written in the sky, a guarantee that their lives will be remembered forever. But Buddhism invites us to release that demand. Meaning does not have to be eternal to be real, just as a song has meaning. In the moment of being sung, so too life has meaning in the moment of being lived. To demand permanence is to miss the beauty of impermanence. Mindful living is not glamorous. It does not promise fame or monuments, but it brings quiet joy. It teaches us that meaning is found not in chasing extraordinary experiences, but in attending to the ordinary with extraordinary care. Holding a child's hand, tending a garden, sitting in silence with a friend, these become sacred acts when lived with presence. As we close this section, we see that the crisis of meaning arises not because life is meaningless, but because we search in the wrong places. We try to fill the void with impermanent things, and when they fade, we feel empty. But when we turn inward, when we practice mindfulness, compassion, and the wisdom of emptiness, we discover a meaning that does not depend on achievement or possession. Life becomes full, not because we have solved every question, but because we have learned to live deeply in each moment. In the next section, we will go further. We will explore how the endless pursuit of success and identity deepens the crisis of meaning, and how Buddhist practice invites us to let go of illusions of grandeur and instead discover freedom in simplicity and authenticity. The search for meaning often disguises itself as ambition. In a culture that prizes achievement, many believe that success, wealth, or fame will fill the emptiness they feel inside. From childhood, people are told to strive, earn good grades, secure a good job, build a career, buy a house, leave a legacy. These milestones become symbols of worth. The unspoken message is clear. Your life has meaning only if it is impressive. This belief fuels endless striving. People sacrifice sleep, health, and relationships for promotions or recognition. They measure their days in productivity, their years in milestones. Yet even when they reach their goals, the sense of fulfillment fades quickly. The corner office feels ordinary after a few weeks. The award gathers dust on a shelf. The applause of others quiets, leaving silence once more. The hunger for meaning remains unsatisfied, demanding new goals to chase. Why does success fail to satisfy? Because it is rooted in impermanence. Fame fades as quickly as it rises. Wealth can vanish in a market crash. Achievements are forgotten with time. The self we construct through success is fragile, requiring constant defense. If meaning depends on these things, it will always collapse. This collapse leaves people feeling hollow, as if all their effort has been for nothing. Buddhism offers a radical perspective. It teaches that the self we strive to glorify does not exist as a fixed entity. The doctrine of anatta, or non-self, reveals that identity is a collection of changing experiences, not a solid core. When we chase success to strengthen the self, we are chasing an illusion. No matter how much we build, it cannot satisfy, because there is nothing permanent to secure. This truth, though unsettling, is also liberating. If the self is not fixed, and we are free from the burden of proving ourselves, we can live authentically without clinging to roles or reputations. Consider the image of a mask. Many wear masks of competence, strength, or charm to gain approval. These masks bring temporary recognition, but behind them, the heart feels unseen. True connection is impossible when we hide behind masks. The pursuit of fame or status becomes another mask, admired by the crowd, but leaving the wearer lonely. Only when we remove the mask and reveal our true selves can we experience belonging. That satisfies the soul. There is a Zen story of a monk who is praised for his wisdom. People traveled far to hear him speak. One day, he left his monastery without telling anyone, living quietly as a farmer in a distant village. Years later, a traveler recognized him and asked why he abandoned fame. The monk replied, "Fame is like a shadow. It follows me when the light is behind me, disappears when darkness falls, and vanishes when I turn. Why chase something that never stays?" His words reflect the Buddhist view that chasing recognition is chasing shadows. Mindfulness cuts through the illusion of success. When we practice mindfulness, we stop projecting happiness into the future. I will be happy when I achieve this. Instead, we anchor in the present. We discover joy in the act itself, not only in the outcome. The writer finds joy in the rhythm of words, not only in obligation. The parent finds joy in playing with their child, not only in milestones. The worker finds joy in effort, not only in promotions. Success may still come, but it no longer defines meaning. Contentment is another antidote. The Buddha taught that contentment is the greatest wealth. To be content does not mean giving up ambition or refusing to grow. It means recognizing that peace is not postponed until the next achievement. It means saying, "This moment is enough." With contentment, success becomes a gift, not a requirement. Fame becomes optional, not essential. The endless hunger for more is replaced by gratitude for what already is. Compassion also transforms the pursuit of meaning. When we shift focus from self-centered ambition to serving others, life expands. Success is no longer about personal glory, but about contribution. A teacher may never win awards, but the lives they touch ripple outward for generations. A caregiver may never be praised, but their compassion brings meaning deeper than fame. The Buddha emphasized that true joy arises when we forget ourselves and act with love. This is meaning that no failure or loss can erase. The crisis of meaning is not about lack of achievements, but about the wrong foundation. We build on sand wealth, fame, ego, and wonder why it collapses. Buddhism invites us to build on rock, mindfulness, compassion, wisdom. These foundations endure because they are not tied to impermanence. They do not depend on others' opinions or external conditions. They arise from the heart, and once cultivated, they remain. This does not mean abandoning ambition. It means transforming it. Instead of ambition driven by fear of emptiness, we cultivate aspiration rooted in love. We aspire not to impress, but to serve, not to control, but to connect. This shift brings meaning that is stable and nourishing. It turns life from a competition into a journey of awakening. Modern society often glorifies busyness as proof of worth. People fill calendars, chase productivity, and boast of exhaustion. Yet beneath the surface, many feel empty. The Dharma reminds us that busyness is not the same as purpose. A still mind, present in each moment, may live more meaningfully than a frantic schedule filled with achievements. Slowing down, breathing, and being present reveals meaning hidden in simplicity. There is a saying in Zen: before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The meaning is simple. Ordinary life, lived with awareness, is the path. We do not need grand achievements to justify existence. Each breath, each act of kindness, each moment of presence carries infinite meaning when lived fully. As we close this section, we see that chasing success, fame, and ego deepens the crisis of meaning. These pursuits promise fulfillment but deliver emptiness. The Buddha's wisdom offers another way: to release the illusion of self, to cultivate mindfulness, compassion, and contentment, and to live authentically. Meaning is not found in applause, but in presence. It is not found in becoming extraordinary, but in living the ordinary with extraordinary care. Our next step will take us into another form of modern suffering: addiction and escapism. When emptiness and lack of meaning grow too heavy, many turn to substances, screens, or endless distractions to escape. In the next part of our journey, we will explore how Buddhist wisdom reveals a path not of escape, but of awakening, transforming, craving into clarity, and addiction into freedom. Addiction is one of the clearest expressions of human suffering in the modern age. It is not limited to drugs or alcohol. Addiction can take many forms: endless scrolling on phones, binge-watching shows, compulsive shopping, unhealthy eating, or chasing relationships that harm us. At its root, addiction is the attempt to escape pain. It is the restless craving for something outside ourselves to soothe the unease inside. Everyone knows the cycle. A moment of stress or loneliness arises. The mind looks for relief, reaching for a drink, a cigarette, a screen, or some other distraction. At first, it works. The tension softens, the sadness dulls, the fear retreats. For a while, the problem seems solved. But the relief fades quickly, and the old pain returns, stronger than before. The craving returns too, demanding more of the substance or behavior. What began as comfort becomes a prison. This prison is not only physical, but emotional and spiritual. Addiction isolates. It creates shame. The person caught in it feels powerless, disappointed in themselves, afraid of judgment. They hide their struggle, withdrawing from loved ones. In this isolation, the addiction deepens. What started as a solution becomes the problem itself. Addiction is suffering multiplied, suffering from the original pain, and suffering from the chains we create trying to escape it. Why does addiction take such hold? Buddhism teaches that craving, or tanha, is the root of suffering. The mind believes, if I just have this, I will be okay. But craving never ends. It is like a fire. Each thing we throw into it only makes it burn hotter. Addiction is craving in its most obvious form. It is the desperate attempt to fill emptiness with pleasure. But pleasure fades and craving returns. This endless loop is the wheel of suffering. Imagine a thirsty person drinking salt water. Each sip promises relief, but only increases thirst. Addiction is the same. The drink, the pill, the scroll, the purchase. It seems to quench the need, but leaves us drier than before. The Buddha saw this clearly. He taught that lasting freedom cannot be found in craving, but only in letting go. Mindfulness is the key. In addiction, actions are automatic. The hand reaches for the drink before the mind even notices. The phone is unlocked before the thought arises. Mindfulness interrupts this cycle. When we pause and observe, we notice the craving as it arises. We feel the restlessness in the body, the story in the mind. I need this now. By observing without acting, we create space. In that space lies freedom. This does not mean the craving disappears instantly, but when we see it clearly, we recognize it for what it is. Just a sensation, just a thought, just a wave passing through. Craving feels unbearable only when unconscious. When we shine awareness on it, we see that it rises, peaks, and fades. We do not need to obey it. Compassion is also essential. Many people trapped in addiction hate themselves. They say, I am weak, I am broken. This shame deepens the cycle. But compassion reminds us, addiction is not a sign of weakness. It is a human attempt to cope with pain. Everyone seeks relief from suffering. Some ways are healthier than others, but the impulse itself is universal. When we meet ourselves with compassion, we loosen shame's grip. Instead of punishing ourselves, we support ourselves. This is the soil where healing can grow. There is a story of a monk who once struggled with craving for food. He would sneak extra meals at night, ashamed of his weakness. His teacher did not scold him. Instead, he said, "Do not fight your craving with anger. Sit with it, watch it carefully, learn from it." Over time, the monk saw how the craving rose and fell. By observing it with kindness instead of judgment, the craving lost its power. This story reminds us that healing begins not with violence toward ourselves, but with gentle awareness. Community, or Sangha, is another pillar of healing. Addiction thrives in isolation. Recovery flourishes in connection. The Buddha created a community because he knew that no one walks the path alone. In the same way, those struggling with addiction need support, not only from professionals, but from friends, family, and fellow travelers who understand the struggle. Sharing the burden lightens it. Being seen without judgment breaks the illusion of being alone. Yet even with mindfulness, compassion, and community, recovery is not linear. Relapses happen. Cravings return. The path is often 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Buddhism reminds us that this too is part of practice. Each stumble is not failure, but another chance to learn. The Buddha said, "Fall 7 times, rise 8. What matters is not perfection, but persistence. Each moment is an opportunity to begin again." Addiction also points to a deeper truth, the human longing for transcendence. People chase substances and distractions not only to escape pain, but to touch something greater: joy, relief, connection, freedom. Addiction is a misguided search for liberation. The Buddha taught that true liberation is possible, but not through escape. It comes through awakening. Instead of numbing ourselves, we learn to face suffering directly. Instead of running from the fire, we learn to sit with it until it burns itself out. Meditation can offer glimpses of this freedom. When the mind settles, even briefly, we taste a peace deeper than any substance can provide. This peace does not depend on conditions. It is not manufactured or bought. It arises naturally when craving subsides. Once tasted, it reveals the futility of addiction. Why settle for salt water when fresh water is already within us? Still, it is important to remember that Buddhist practice is not about denial. The Buddha did not demand ascetic extremes for most people. He taught the middle way balance between indulgence and rejection. For those struggling with addiction, this means progress, not perfection. It means small steps, mindful choices, gradual healing. Over time, these steps create a new path, one rooted in awareness rather than escape. As we close this section, we see that addiction is not only a personal struggle, but a mirror of human suffering. It reveals the universal pattern of craving, the endless search for relief outside ourselves. The Buddha's wisdom offers another way: mindfulness to interrupt the cycle, compassion to soften shame, community to support healing, and meditation to reveal the deeper freedom within. In the next section, we will explore escapism more broadly, not only in the form of addiction to substances, but in the countless distractions people use to avoid facing life directly. We will see how Buddhist practice transforms the impulse to escape into the courage to awaken, and how even the restless longing for escape can become the doorway to true freedom. Escapism is everywhere in modern life. It may not always look like addiction in the traditional sense, but it serves the same purpose: to avoid pain, to numb discomfort, to silence the restless mind. People escape into endless streaming shows, into video games that swallow whole weekends, into the infinite scroll of social media feeds. Others escape into constant busyness, using work itself as a way to avoid stillness. On the surface, these activities seem harmless, even normal. But when we look deeply, we see they often serve as distractions from deeper truths we do not want to face. Why do people escape? Because reality can feel unbearable. Stress from work, conflict in relationships, fear of failure, anxiety about the future, these weigh heavily. The mind whispers, I cannot face this. I need relief. Escapism offers a quick solution. A movie distracts us for 2 hours. A scroll through images makes us forget our loneliness for a few minutes. A game offers control and reward when real life feels uncertain. Escapism promises comfort. Yet beneath the comfort is avoidance, and avoidance never brings true peace. Buddha taught that suffering is part of life. To deny it or run from it only prolongs the pain. Escapism is like covering a wound with a bandage. Without cleaning it, the infection remains underneath. True healing comes not from distraction, but from facing suffering directly. This is not easy. It requires courage. But the path of awakening is built on this courage, the willingness to see clearly what is painful and to stay present with it until wisdom arises. Technology has made escapism more seductive than ever. The phone in our pocket offers endless distraction. At any moment, feeling anxious? Check notifications. Feeling sad? Watch a video. Feeling restless? Open an app. These tools are designed to capture attention, offering instant gratification that masks discomfort. But the relief is shallow and fleeting. When the screen turns off, the old pain returns, sometimes stronger than before. Technology magnifies the cycle of craving and avoidance, making it harder to touch reality as it is dot. Yet escapism is not only a trap, it is also a clue. Beneath the urge to escape is the deeper longing for freedom. Why do people binge watch shows? To feel absorbed, to forget themselves for a time. Why do people scroll endlessly? To feel connected, even if artificially. Why do people drown in busyness? To feel purposeful. These are distorted forms of spiritual longing. They reveal that the heart is searching for peace, for connection, for meaning. The tragedy is not the longing itself, but that we seek it in places that cannot satisfy. Buddhism offers a way to transform this longing. Instead of numbing, we awaken. Instead of running from pain, we learn to sit with it. Mindfulness teaches us to notice the impulse to escape. The moment we reach for the phone, turn on the show, or open the fridge, we pause. We ask, what am I feeling right now? What am I trying not to face? Often, it is loneliness, boredom, or anxiety. By naming it, we step out of automatic behavior. We create space to choose differently. Meditation becomes the practice of facing what we normally escape. In stillness, the restless mind protests. It throws up boredom, fear, old memories, endless thoughts. Normally, we would run from these with distraction. But in meditation, we stay. We breathe. We watch the mind's patterns unfold. At first, this feels difficult, even unbearable. But over time, we discover that we can survive discomfort. We see that thoughts and feelings rise and fall like waves. The very things we feared turn out to be temporary. This discovery builds resilience, showing us that we no longer need to escape. Compassion is essential in this transformation. We must not judge ourselves for escaping. Everyone does it. To reach for distraction when overwhelmed is human. But when we add judgment, I am weak, I am lazy, we add more suffering. Compassion says, this is hard. I turned to distraction because I was in pain. Next time, I will try to meet the pain with awareness. This gentle approach makes change possible. Self-criticism traps us, while compassion frees us. Community also helps. Escapism isolates, but connection heals. When we share honestly about our struggles with distraction, others often say, me too. This shared recognition reduces shame and builds support. In Buddhist communities, practitioners gather not to escape, but to face reality together. They sit in silence, share insights, and encourage each other. This collective courage strengthens. Individual practice. There is a story of a young man who asked a teacher, "Why do I feel restless every time I sit to meditate?" The teacher replied, "Because you are finally facing what you have always run from. Restlessness is the guard at the gate. If you keep sitting, the gate will open." This story reveals the heart of Buddhist practice. Restlessness, boredom, and the urge to escape are not obstacles. They are the doorway to awakening. If we stay present, we pass through the gate into freedom. Escapism shows us what we fear most: silence, stillness, emptiness. We fear that if we stop distracting ourselves, we will confront unbearable truths, that we are lonely, insecure, mortal. But the Dharma teaches that within this silence lies peace. Within stillness lies clarity. Within emptiness lies fullness. What we run from is the very thing that can heal us. Practical steps can support this transformation. We can set aside small times each day without distraction. No screens, no noise, just presence. We can eat meals mindfully, tasting each bite without rushing. We can take walks without headphones, noticing the world around us. These small acts retrain the mind to be present instead of escaping. Over time, presence becomes natural, and the impulse to escape weakens. Still, there will be times when we fall into distraction. This too is part of the path. The key is to return gently, again and again, to awareness. Each return strengthens the habit of presence. The Buddha compared practice to training an ox. At first, it resists, pulls away, wanders. But with patience and consistency, it learns to stay. Our minds are the same. With time, they settle. As we close this section, we see that escapism is not simply a weakness, but a distorted search for freedom. Beneath every distraction is the longing to be free from suffering. The tragedy is not the longing, but the misdirection. The Buddha's wisdom shows us how to redirect this longing, from escape to awakening, from distraction to presence, from avoidance to courage. In this transformation, the restless heart discovers the peace it was always seeking. In the next part, we will explore another common pain of modern life, the struggle with self-image and the body. In a culture obsessed with beauty and perfection, many suffer deeply from comparison, insecurity, and shame. We will see how Buddhist practice can dissolve these illusions, offering a way to see the body not as an enemy, but as a precious vehicle for awakening. In every era, people have cared about how they look. But in today's world, the pressure has grown into something overwhelming. Images of perfect bodies and flawless faces flood advertisements, magazines, television, and especially social media. Every scroll brings another comparison. Each photo whispers, "This is what beauty looks like. This is what worth looks like." And when people look into the mirror, they often feel they do not measure up. This obsession with image cuts deeply. It affects women, men, and even children. Young girls worry about weight before they are old enough to understand health. Boys feel ashamed if they are not muscular or tall. Adults spend fortunes on cosmetics, surgeries, and diets, hoping to match an impossible ideal. Those who do not match the standard often feel invisible or rejected. Those who do match it often feel anxious, fearing they will lose it. Either way, suffering grows. At the heart of this suffering is comparison. The mind looks outward, measuring the self against others. She is thinner. He is stronger. They are more attractive. Each comparison is a knife, cutting away self-worth. Even when we receive compliments, the relief is temporary. One unflattering photo, one critical comment, and confidence collapses. Beauty built on comparison is fragile, always at risk. Buddhism teaches that this suffering comes from attachment and delusion. We attach to the body as if it defines who we are. We believe the illusion that beauty equals happiness, that youth equals value, that perfection equals love. But the body, like all things, is impermanent. It changes moment by moment. Skin wrinkles, hair grays, muscles weaken. To cling to an image of eternal youth is to fight reality itself. This fight cannot be won, and it fills life with anxiety. Consider a flower. When it blooms, it is beautiful. When it wilts, it is still part of nature's cycle. No one despises the flower for fading. Yet with ourselves, we resist aging fiercely as if it were a failure. We forget that we too are part of the natural cycle. To see beauty only in youth is to miss the beauty of maturity, wisdom, and presence. Mindfulness offers another way to see the body. Instead of judging it, we observe it with curiosity. We notice the breath filling the lungs, the heart beating. Faithfully, the legs carrying us each day. The body is not an ornament for display, but a vehicle for life. It allows us to love, to work, to experience. When we shift focus from appearance to function, gratitude replaces criticism. The body becomes a gift, not a burden. There is a Buddhist meditation called the body scan. In it, we bring awareness to each part of the body from head to toe. We notice sensations, warmth, tension, tingling without judgment. This practice softens the harsh inner critic. Instead of saying, "My thighs are too big," or "My skin is flawed," we say, "This is the feeling in my thighs. This is the sensation in my skin." By meeting the body with awareness instead of judgment, we learn to inhabit it kindly. Compassion is also crucial. Many treat their bodies with harshness, punishing them with extreme diets, grueling workouts, or cruel self-talk. Compassion invites gentleness. It says, "This body carries me through life. It deserves care, not punishment." Compassion shifts the focus from chasing ideals to nurturing health. The goal becomes balance, not perfection. Still, society's messages are powerful. Every advertisement tells us we are not enough. Every influencer shows a curated version of life. Resisting these voices requires vigilance. Mindfulness helps us see through the illusion. We ask, who benefits from my insecurity? Often, it is industries that profit from selling solutions, creams, surgeries, programs. In this light, we realize that much of our suffering is manufactured by systems that thrive on our dissatisfaction. Seeing this clearly gives us strength to step off the treadmill. Authenticity becomes an act of freedom. To show up as we are wrinkles, scars, imperfections is to rebel against a culture of masks. Authenticity says, "I am more than my appearance. I am a whole being with love, wisdom, and compassion." This does not mean neglecting the body. It means caring for it from love, not from shame. Exercise, nutrition, and rest become ways of honoring life, not punishing flaws. There is a Zen story of a monk admired for his calm presence. A visitor once asked why he seemed radiant, even though his face was weathered and plain. The monk replied, "Because I do not polish the mirror of the face. I polish the mirror of the heart." True beauty, the story reminds us, shines from within. It is not erased by wrinkles or scars. It grows with kindness, humility, and compassion. In truth, the obsession with beauty masks a deeper longing. The longing to be loved and accepted. People chase perfect bodies because they believe it will bring connection. But love built on appearance is fragile. It fades as the body changes. Love built on compassion and authenticity endures. The Buddha taught that real connection arises when we see and accept each other beyond appearances. Recognizing the shared humanity beneath Dot as we close this section, we see that the suffering of self-image arises from clinging to impermanent ideals and forgetting the body's deeper purpose. Mindfulness, compassion, and authenticity offer a path to freedom. When we see the body as a vehicle for life, not a mask for approval, we discover gratitude instead of shame. True beauty is not the flawless face, but the radiant heart Dot in the next section. We will go deeper. We will explore how self-image ties into identity and ego, and how letting go of the obsession with appearance reveals a deeper freedom. We will see how Buddhist wisdom invites us to embrace impermanence, not as loss, but as liberation, transforming the way we live in and with our bodies. The struggle with self-image is not only about looks. At its root, it is about identity. We cling to the body as if it defines who we are. I am my face. I am my weight. I am my strength. When the body meets society's standards, we feel proud. When it does not, we feel ashamed. But in both cases, our worth is chained to an impermanent form. This is why self-image is such a fragile foundation. Buddhism teaches the truth of anatta, or non-self. The body is not a fixed identity, but a collection of changing processes, cells dying and renewing, breath entering and leaving, sensations arising and fading. To believe I am this body is to cling to a river as if it were a stone. The river flows. The body changes. To base identity on it is to guarantee suffering. And yet, modern culture builds the ego around physical appearance. Entire industries thrive on convincing people that they are not enough. Beauty products, fashion, fitness programs all feed the illusion that if we perfect the body, we will perfect the self. But no amount of sculpting or polishing can stop impermanence. Even the most admired celebrities face aging, illness, and decay. The ego fights this reality with desperation. But the fight is futile. Attachment to the body often creates deep fear. We fear wrinkles, weight gain, sickness, and death because they threaten our sense of self. But the Dharma invites us to see these changes differently. Wrinkles are signs of laughter and years lived. Scars are reminders of survival. Aging is the natural unfolding of life. To resist these is to resist nature itself. To embrace them is to find peace. There is a parable of a monk who owned a simple porcelain teacup. He treasured it, treating it with care. One day, a visitor asked why he seemed so calm, even though he valued it greatly. The monk replied, "I see this cup is already broken. When it falls, I will not grieve, because I have loved it fully while it lasted." In the same way, the Buddha invites us to see the body as already broken, not with despair, but with acceptance. Knowing the body will change, we love it while it lasts. We care for it, but we do not cling to it. True freedom arises when we stop equating self-worth with appearance. When we let go of the illusion that beauty is the foundation of identity, we uncover a deeper beauty, the beauty of presence, compassion, and authenticity. This beauty does not fade with time, it grows. A face lined with kindness is more radiant than a flawless face without warmth. A body that carries love is more beautiful than one sculpted by vanity. Mindfulness reveals this truth. When we observe thoughts like "I am ugly" or "I must be perfect," we see them as just thoughts, not truth. They are conditioned by culture, marketing, and comparison. By naming them, this is judgment, this is craving, we create distance. We no longer need to obey them. Slowly, their grip weakens. Compassion deepens this freedom. Many live in silent war with their bodies, criticizing them daily. Compassion says, "This body breathes for me. This body carries me. This body deserves love." When we treat the body as a friend instead of an enemy, we break the cycle of shame. Self-care becomes an act of gratitude, not punishment. Eating well, resting, and exercising are no longer about meeting standards, but about honoring life itself. Community also helps dissolve attachment. When we gather in spaces where authenticity is valued over appearance, the pressure fades. In Buddhist sanghas, practitioners sit side by side without judgment. No one cares about fashion or beauty. What matters is awareness and compassion. In such spaces, people discover a sense of belonging that is not tied to looks. This belonging heals wounds that comparison created. There is also the practice of contemplating impermanence through the body. In traditional meditation, practitioners reflect on how the body ages, decays, and returns to the earth. At first, this may seem grim, but it brings profound peace. By facing impermanence directly, we no longer live in fear of it. We discover that our true essence is not the body itself, but the awareness that experiences it. This awareness is not bound by wrinkles or scars. It is spacious, luminous, and freed out in this way. The body becomes a teacher. Each ache reminds us of impermanence. Each wrinkle reminds us of time's passing. Each breath reminds us of life's fragility. Instead of resenting these truths, we bow to them. They teach us to live fully, to love deeply, to release clinging. There is a Zen saying, "You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop." The body may feel small and limited, but our true nature is vast. When we see ourselves not as isolated forms, but as expressions of the whole, the obsession with appearance fades. We are not separate bodies competing for beauty. We are waves of the same ocean, each carrying the reflection of the infinite dot. As we close this section, we see that attachment to self-image is suffering because it binds us to impermanence. The ego clings to a body that will change, then fears every wrinkle and scar. But when we let go of this clinging, we discover freedom. True beauty is not in perfection, but in authenticity, compassion, and presence. The body, far from being an enemy, becomes a vehicle for awakening, a reminder of impermanence, a gift for practice, a vessel for love. In the next part of our journey, we will explore another source of modern suffering: time. Many feel crushed by the speed of life, always rushing, never arriving. The obsession with doing more leaves little space for simply being. We will see how Buddhist practice invites us to step off the treadmill of time, to slow down, and to rediscover peace in the present moment. Time has become one of the greatest sources of suffering in modern life. People often say, "I don't have enough time." The days feel shorter, the demands greater, the schedules fuller. Morning alarms ring, commutes drag, tasks pile up, deadlines loom. Even moments of rest are haunted by the thought of what still needs to be done. Time itself seems like an enemy, always chasing us, always slipping through our fingers. This constant pressure creates a culture of rushing. Meals are eaten quickly, conversations are cut short, and even leisure becomes hurried. Vacations are planned like projects, filled with lists and check-ins. Parents rush children to school, and rush to work, and rush home to cook, clean, and prepare for another day. The cycle repeats endlessly. In the background is the nagging sense that no matter how much we do, it is never enough. Why do we feel so trapped by time? Partly because modern society glorifies busyness. To be busy is to be important. To rest is to be lazy. People wear exhaustion as a badge of honor. "How are you?" one asks. "Busy," the other replies with a weary smile, as if this proves their worth. But beneath the surface, many feel empty. Busyness hides the deeper truth, a fear of stopping, a fear of facing stillness. Buddhism offers a different perspective. Time is not the enemy. The past is gone, the future has not yet arrived, and the present is the only reality. Yet most people spend their lives caught in memories and plans, regrets and worries. They live everywhere but here. This disconnection fuels the sense of rushing, as if life is always elsewhere. The Dharma teaches that peace is found not by controlling time, but by inhabiting the present fully. Mindfulness is the practice of returning to now. When we breathe with awareness, we touch the present. When we walk slowly, feeling each step, we reclaim time from the rush. The Buddha compared mindfulness to anchoring a ship in stormy waters. The winds of time may blow, but the anchor holds us steady. Each mindful breath says, "Here I am. This moment is enough." Consider a person rushing through lunch. They eat quickly, barely tasting the food, their mind already on the next meeting. In that rush, they lose both the meal and the moment. Now imagine eating mindfully, smelling the aroma, tasting each bite, feeling gratitude for the food. The same 15 minutes become nourishment, not just for the body, but for the soul. Time has not changed, but presence has transformed it. The pressure of time also comes from comparison. We measure our lives against others, their careers, families, travels. If they achieve faster, we feel behind. If they succeed sooner, we feel late. But the Buddha reminds us that each path is unique. A flower does not bloom by comparing to another. It blooms when conditions are right. In the same way, our lives unfold at their own pace. To compare timelines is to create unnecessary suffering. Still, the reality of schedules and deadlines cannot be ignored. Work must be done. Bills must be paid. The Dharma does not ask us to abandon responsibilities. It asks us to bring awareness into them. When we work mindfully, even busy tasks become practice. Washing dishes, answering emails, writing reports, all can be done with presence. The rush softens, replaced by calm attention. Instead of racing through life, we live it. Slowing down is a radical act in a culture of speed. Walking instead of running, listening fully instead of multitasking, pausing before speaking. These small shifts reveal spaciousness hidden within time. The Zen tradition emphasizes this with practices like slow walking meditation. Each step is taken with full awareness, as if the earth itself were sacred. This practice trains the mind to release the obsession with arriving and to honor the journey. There is a story of a student who asked a Zen master, "What is enlightenment?" The master replied, "When hungry, eat. When tired, sleep." The student was confused. "But doesn't everyone do that?" The master answered, "Not at all. When they eat, they are thinking of other things. When they sleep, they dream of tomorrow. To eat while eating, to sleep while sleeping, that is enlightenment." The story reveals how rarely we live in the present and how peace is found in simply being here. Anxiety about time also arises from mortality. We know life is short and we fear wasting it. The clock seems to tick louder with each passing year. But instead of inspiring presence, this fear often drives frantic activity, as if doing more could defeat death. The Buddha taught another way, to embrace impermanence as a reminder to live deeply. When we know life is fleeting, we do not waste time, but not by rushing. We savor it like a rare and precious gift. Imagine holding a fragile flower that will fade by evening. Would we rush past it, or would we pause to admire its beauty? Life is that flower. Its brevity makes it meaningful. By slowing down, by giving attention, we honor its impermanence. The tragedy is not that life is short, but that we hurry through it without seeing. Technology complicates time further. Phones and computers create the illusion that we must always be available, always productive. Notifications demand instant response. Work follows us home, into weekends, even into bed. This erases boundaries, leaving no space for rest. Mindfulness invites us to reclaim these spaces. We can set aside times without screens, creating moments of silence. We can schedule pauses, not just tasks. By doing so, we rediscover that rest is not wasted time. It is essential for living fully. Community also helps slow the rush. When people gather mindfully sharing meals, meditating, walking together, they remind each other of presence. In such moments, time expands. Minutes feel like hours, not because they are longer, but because they are deeper. Presence turns quantity into quality. As we close this section, we see that the suffering of time arises not from the clock, but from the mind. Rushing, comparing, fearing, and clinging can create the sense of scarcity. The Buddha's wisdom offers freedom to return to the present, to slow down, to honor impermanence, to live fully in each moment. When we do, time is no longer an enemy, but a companion, reminding us to awaken here and now. In the next section, we will go further. We will explore how ambition, productivity, and the obsession with efficiency deepen the suffering of time, and how the Dharma invites us to let go of the race and find true freedom in simplicity and stillness. If rushing is the surface layer of modern suffering with time, then productivity obsession is its deeper core. In today's culture, value is often measured by output. People ask not, "How are you?" but "What are you working on?" or "What have you accomplished?" Rest becomes suspicious. Silence becomes uncomfortable. Stillness becomes unacceptable. The worth of a human being is reduced to what they produce, how efficiently they perform, and how much they achieve. This obsession begins early. Children are praised for grades, medals, or achievements rather than kindness or curiosity. As they grow, the pattern deepens. Careers are measured in promotions, salaries, and titles. Success is framed as endless upward motion. Even hobbies are turned into competitions, judged by skill, productivity, or public recognition. The message is relentless. To be valuable, you must always be doing. Yet beneath the surface, this productivity obsession leaves people exhausted and hollow. They may achieve much, but inside they feel empty. Each success only raises the bar for the next. Good is never good enough. A day off feels guilty. A pause feels like failure. Life becomes a treadmill running endlessly, going nowhere. The body suffers from stress and burnout, while the spirit suffers from disconnection and despair. Buddhism offers a radical alternative. It teaches that our worth is not tied to achievement. The Dharma does not measure life in output, but in presence. A single mindful breath can be more meaningful than years of frantic striving. The Buddha did not say, "Be productive." He said, "Be awake." True value lies not in doing more, but in being fully here. The problem with productivity obsession is attachment to results. We tell ourselves, "I will be happy when I finish this project, when I earn this title, when I reach this goal." But when the goal is reached, the satisfaction fades quickly. Soon the mind sets another target. This endless chase mirrors the cycle of craving. The mind is never at rest, because it always wants more. By clinging to results, we sacrifice the present for an imagined future that never satisfies. Mindfulness interrupts this cycle. Instead of rushing toward outcomes, we bring attention to the process. Writing becomes not about finishing, but about enjoying words as they appear. Cooking becomes not about completing a meal, but about engaging the senses, the sound of chopping, the scent of spices, the warmth of the stove. Even work tasks become opportunities for practice. Presence turns duty into devotion. There is a Zen story of a monk sweeping the courtyard. A visitor asked, "Why do you sweep every day?" "Leaves will fall again tomorrow." The monk replied, "I do not sweep to finish. I sweep to sweep." This story reveals the freedom of letting go of results. The act itself, done with presence, carries meaning beyond productivity. Compassion also counters the obsession with achievement. Many drive themselves mercilessly, judging worth only by success. Compassion invites us to rest, to recognize limits, to care for the body and mind. It says, "You are valuable not because of what you do, but because you are alive." This truth may feel radical in a culture that equates rest with laziness, yet it is deeply healing. Self-compassion allows us to step off the treadmill, and breathe. Community plays a role too. When surrounded by people who glorify busyness, it is hard to slow down. But when we gather with those who value presence, simplicity, and authenticity, we are reminded of another way. In Buddhist sanghas, silence is cherished, stillness honored. Sitting quietly together is not wasted time, it is sacred time. Such spaces remind us that life's worth is not in speed or output, but in awareness and connection. Ambition itself is not wrong. The Buddha did not discourage effort. He taught right effort, the balanced energy that avoids both laziness and obsession. Right effort means working diligently, but without clinging to results. It means pursuing goals aligned with compassion and wisdom, not ego and comparison. It means knowing when to act and when to rest. This balance is the middle way. The obsession with productivity also stems from fear of being left behind, fear of insignificance, fear of death. If we keep producing, perhaps we will matter, perhaps we will be remembered. But the Buddha reminds us that impermanence applies even to achievements. Buildings crumble, names are forgotten, legacies fade. Chasing immortality through productivity only deepens fear. True peace comes from accepting impermanence and living fully now, not from trying to outpace time. Consider a candle. Its purpose is not to last forever, but to give light while it burns. In the same way, our lives are not measured by endless accumulation, but by the presence and compassion we bring to each moment. A single act of kindness may outshine a lifetime of achievements. A mindful presence with a loved one may mean more than years of busyness. Technology intensifies productivity obsession. Emails, notifications, and performance metrics make people feel constantly monitored. Even rest is invaded by screens. Many track their sleep, their steps, their habits, turning life itself into a productivity project. The Dharma invites us to drop these measurements and rediscover the freedom of simply being, resting without tracking, walking without counting, breathing without analyzing. These are acts of liberation. There is a Zen saying, "Sitting quietly, doing nothing, spring comes and the grass grows by itself." This wisdom reminds us that not everything requires effort. Life unfolds naturally. Growth happens without constant control. By learning to trust this rhythm, we free ourselves from the illusion that everything depends on our BUSYNESS. As we close this section, we see that the obsession with productivity is another form of suffering. It chains worth to results, fuels endless craving, and robs us of presence. The Buddha's wisdom offers freedom, mindfulness to savor the process, compassion to honor rest, right effort to balance action, and acceptance of impermanence to release fear. True value is not in doing more, but in being awake. Our next step will take us into the final great theme of modern suffering, the restless mind itself. Even when free from stress, money worries, loneliness, or busyness, many still feel unsettled. Thoughts race, emotions surge, peace feels out of reach. In the next part, we will explore how the Buddha's teachings on the mind reveal the deepest freedom. Freedom not from life's conditions, but from the turmoil within. Even when external circumstances seem calm, many people feel unsettled inside. The house may be quiet, the workday finished, the children asleep, yet the mind keeps racing. Thoughts tumble over each other. Worries about tomorrow, regrets about yesterday, judgments about the self. fears about the future. The body rests, but the mind never does. This restlessness is one of the most common forms of modern suffering. People describe it in many ways: overthinking, racing thoughts, anxiety, mental noise. Some lie awake at night, unable to silence the inner chatter. Others distract themselves, constantly fearing what will surface if silence is allowed. Even moments of pleasure are interrupted by worry. A vacation feels spoiled by thoughts of work waiting at home. A celebration feels incomplete because the mind whispers, "It won't last." Restlessness steals peace even when life is good. Why? Is the mind so restless? Buddhism teaches that the mind, left untrained, behaves like a wild monkey. It jumps from branch to branch, grabbing one thought, dropping it, and grabbing another. It never settles. This monkey mind is fueled by craving and aversion, the constant desire for what we don't have, and the resistance to what we don't like. Thoughts multiply endlessly, trying to solve problems, anticipate dangers, or secure comfort. The irony is that this constant activity rarely brings solutions. It only deepens stress. Consider a pond of water. When stirred, the surface ripples and mud rises. Looking into it, we cannot see clearly. The restless mind is like this pond, muddy, unsettled, clouded. We strain to see peace, but clarity is hidden beneath the disturbance. If we leave the pond alone, the mud slowly settles. The water becomes clear again. In the same way, when we stop agitating the mind, calmness and clarity naturally appear. The Buddha did not condemn thinking itself. Thought is a useful tool for understanding, planning, and creating. The problem is identification with thought, the belief that we are our thoughts, and that peace depends on controlling them. The Dharma teaches that thoughts are like clouds drifting through the sky. They arise, they change, they dissolve. We are not the clouds. We are the sky itself, vast, open, unshaken. Mindfulness is the practice of remembering this truth. When a thought arises, instead of following it endlessly, we observe it. Ah, this is worry. This is planning. This is judgment. By naming it, we create space. The thought is no longer the whole world. It is simply an event in awareness. In this space, restlessness softens. Thoughts still arise, but they lose their power to control us. Breath is the anchor. When the mind races, we return to the breath. Inhale, exhale. The breath is always here, always steady. Focusing on it grounds us in the present moment. Each time the mind wanders, we gently return, like guiding a child back to safety. Over time, this practice tames the monkey mind. It learns to rest on the branch of the present. Stillness can be uncomfortable at first. Many avoid meditation because silence feels unbearable. In quiet, suppressed emotions surface: grief, fear, longing. The restless mind prefers distraction to facing these. But the Dharma invites us to sit gently with whatever arises. We breathe with it, observe it, and let it pass. Slowly, we realize that emotions, too, are impermanent. They come and go like waves. By staying present, we discover that we can survive even intense feelings. Compassion is vital here. When the mind races, self-criticism often follows. Why can't I relax? Why am I broken? This only adds to suffering. Compassion says, the mind is restless because it is human. Everyone struggles with this. May I be kind to myself as I learn. This kindness softens resistance. It allows practice to unfold naturally, without pressure to achieve instant calm. There is a Zen story of a student who complained, "My mind is restless. What can I do?" The master replied, "Do you think restlessness is you? It is only a visitor. Why treat it as the master?" The student realized that identifying with restlessness gave it power. By seeing it as temporary, he could let it pass without fear. This story reminds us that restlessness is not who we are. It is only an experience, rising and falling like any other. Modern life amplifies restlessness with constant stimulation. Notifications, news, and noise keep the mind in overdrive. Even moments of silence are filled with screens. To find peace, we must create intentional spaces of stillness. Turning off devices, sitting quietly, walking in nature, these are simple yet powerful practices. They give the mind space to settle, like the pond left undisturbed. Another practice is mindful labeling. When thoughts race, we quietly name them: thinking, worrying, planning. This simple act creates distance. The thought is no longer overwhelming. It is just a mental event. Over time, this labeling weakens the habit of identification. The mind becomes less sticky, less caught. The Buddha described the mind as a charioteer with wild horses. Without training, the horses run in all directions. With training, they move together, carrying the chariot smoothly. Meditation trains the horses of thought and emotion. It does not kill them, but guides them. The result is not silence, but harmony. As restlessness softens, peace emerges. This peace is not the absence of thought, but the presence of awareness. It is a spaciousness beneath the noise, a stillness beneath the motion. Once we touch it, we see that it was always there. The sky was always vast, even when filled with clouds. This longing for peace is universal. Every restless thought is, at its root, a search for safety, love, and belonging. The tragedy is that the restless mind looks in the wrong places: control, distraction, overthinking. The Dharma redirects the search inward. Peace is not in solving every problem or securing every future. Peace is here, in awareness itself. As we close this section, we see that the restless mind is not an enemy, but a teacher. It shows us where we cling, where we fear, where we avoid. By meeting it with mindfulness, breath, and compassion, we learn to rest in awareness. The longing for peace, once misdirected, becomes the doorway to awakening. In the next section, we will go deeper. We will explore how clinging to thoughts and identities binds the restless mind, and how Buddhist practice offers freedom from identification. We will see that liberation is not about stopping thought, but about seeing through it, discovering the vast stillness that has always been within. The restless mind does not only race with thoughts, it also clings to them. We do not simply think, we believe we are our thoughts. If a thought says, "I am a failure," we feel like failures. If a thought says, "I am unworthy," we carry shame. If a thought says, "I must succeed," we exhaust ourselves trying to prove it. In this way, thoughts become identities. We mistake passing clouds for the sky itself. This identification is one of the deepest sources of suffering. The Buddha taught that clinging to the idea of a fixed self is an illusion. Yet most people live as if their thoughts define who they are. They say, "I am my career, I am my role, I am my beliefs." But when the career collapses, when roles shift, when beliefs change, they feel shattered. The restless mind is restless, not only because it thinks too much, but because it clings too tightly to what it thinks. Consider the story of a man who carried a heavy backpack everywhere. Inside were stones labeled with thoughts: "I am successful, I am smart, I am strong." At first, he felt proud to carry them. But over time, the weight grew unbearable. One day, he realized that the backpack was optional. He set it down and walked freely. The story reflects the Dharma. We suffer not because we have thoughts, but because we carry them as if they were our identity. Mindful incess reveals the difference between awareness and thought. When we sit quietly and observe, we notice thoughts. Arising, images, words, memories. Instead of diving into them, we watch them pass. Here is a memory. Here is a plan. Here is a judgment. Each observation reminds us, this is not me. This is a thought. Over time, this practice weakens the habit of identification. We begin to experience ourselves, not as the thinker, but as the observer, a spacious awareness in which thought arises and dissolves. Meditation deepens this realization. As the mind settles, gaps appear between thoughts. In these gaps is stillness silent, open, luminous. At first, the gaps are brief, like cracks in the clouds where sunlight streams through. With practice, the gaps widen. We taste peace not dependent on thought. We discover that awareness itself is calm and unchanging, no matter how many thoughts appear. Compassion helps us face the thoughts we fear most. Many avoid silence because painful beliefs surface. I am unlovable. I am broken. I am not enough. Meeting these thoughts with hostility only strengthens them. But meeting them with compassion softens them. We say, this is a painful thought. It arises from old wounds. May I be gentle with myself. Compassion does not erase painful thoughts instantly, but it robs them of their sting. There is a story of a monk who was tormented by self-doubt. His teacher asked him to write down every negative thought. He filled pages. I am worthless. I am weak. I am failing. The teacher then burned the papers and said, these thoughts are like smoke reel for a moment, gone the next. Why build your life upon them? The monk realized that the power of thought lies not in its truth, but in our belief in it. When we stop believing, we are free. Modern society strengthens identification with thought by glorifying opinions, achievements, and self-image. Social media amplifies this, rewarding those who shout their identities the loudest. But beneath the noise, many feel insecure, as if they must constantly defend who they are. Buddhism offers release. By seeing the self as fluid, impermanent, and interconnected, we no longer need to defend it. We can live authentically, knowing that we are more than any label or thought. Stillness is not the absence of thought, but freedom from clinging. The mind may still produce worries, plans, and judgments, but when we no longer identify with them, they pass like leaves on a stream. Awareness watches, spacious and undisturbed. This stillness is always present, like the sky behind clouds. We do not create it. We uncover it by letting go. The practice of noting supports this. When a thought arises, we note it simply. Thinking, planning, remembering. This gentle labeling prevents fusion with the thought. It reminds us that thinking is just another activity, like hearing or breathing. We do not say, I am the breath. We say, breathing is happening. In the same way, we learn to say, thinking is happening. This shift dissolves identification. Another practice is to contemplate interdependence. The self we cling to is not separate, but formed by countless conditions: parents, teachers, culture, biology, experiences. Even our thoughts are not entirely ours. They echo voices of family, society, history. Seeing this, we realize that the self is a process, not an entity. It is a wave, not the ocean. When the illusion of a solid self dissolves, so too does much of the restlessness. This realization does not erase individuality. It deepens connection. If the self is not fixed, then we are free to change, to grow, to respond with compassion. If the self is interdependent, then we are connected to all beings. This insight transforms loneliness into belonging. We discover that true peace is not in defending the self, but in dissolving its boundaries. There is a Zen saying, do not seek the truth, only cease to cherish opinions. This wisdom reminds us that much of restlessness comes from clinging to views, beliefs, and judgments. By loosening this grip, we allow space for silence, humility, and peace. The mind no longer needs to win every argument or secure every identity. It can rest in openness. As we close this final section of our exploration, we see that the restless mind is not the enemy, but the doorway. Its racing thoughts reveal our clinging. Its noise reveals our identification. By meeting it with mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom, we learn to step back into awareness itself. Here lies lasting stillness, not by stopping thought, but by seeing through it. The mind may still chatter, but awareness remains vast and unshaken. Like the sky holding every cloud, now we prepare to bring our journey to its close. We have walked through many forms of suffering, stress, money, relationships, loneliness, meaning, addiction, self-image, time, and the restless mind. Each revealed not only pain, but also the doorway to freedom. In the final conclusion, we will gather these insights, offering hope and encouragement for a life of presence, compassion, and awakening.